special district is.
Board of Selectmen meeting for October 17th, 2018. Is there anybody in here recording other than WACA-TV? Let's know. Okay. I don't know. Okay, thank you. We don't. He just records, right? He doesn't. We just need it. Thank you. So I'm going to dispense with some our usual preliminaries because we're kind of behind schedule. So I'm going to go. And also, is there anyone here for citizens' participation? Anybody? So we'll do that later. So that's good. Let's move on. I just, I've been asked, and Yolanda's going to read a special message from the town clerk about voter registration. Go ahead, Yolanda.
So the election is November 6th. Today is the very last day to register. The town clerk's office is open right now until 8 p.m. here at the town hall. If you're watching either via live stream or via cable, you can run down and register, or you can go online and register to vote, as today is the last day, until 11:59 p.m. You do need to be registered to vote so that when you show up on the polls on November 6th, you can vote. There's also early voter going on, and we'll give that information later, but the registration and registering to vote was the timely stuff.
Oh, very good. Thank you, Yolanda. Okay, I'm going to just head into ask Jim Adams to come up for feasibility study. And if
Thank you. Good evening.
Superintendent, if you just want to tell us why you're here and what's going on.
As you know, we've begun the process of the MSBA process looking into the David Mendez School in terms of what we're going to do with the Mendez School. So the building committee, which you approved last year, is up and running. We've had 2 meetings currently. Ms. Greaves and Mr. Kendall and I have been into Boston to meet with the MSBA over the summer, and we're at the point now where the money that was appropriated at town meeting, the $1 million for a feasibility study, it's time for us to enter into that feasibility study process with the MSBA. On October 31st, we hope that there will be inviting us into Boston again to approve our participation in the next module, which is the feasibility study. So what they require is the Board of Selectmen to approve entering into the feasibility study agreement, which I've given to Mr. Herbert, and we did have Attorney Mead look at the documents, and she had to sign off on a couple documents herself. And then what you also need to do is we have to just have a copy of the minutes tonight that you've approved it and that you sign the document. And once that's done, I can ship it off to the MSBA, and we will be set for the October 31st meeting, and we will then begin the process of the feasibility study, which we know will take 18 to 24 months to accomplish.
Any questions from board members?
Jim,
Yeah.
what group is going to do the study, or have you decided?
We don't know, so that's part of it. Is we'll be selecting a project manager,
Yep.
and then a designer will come through after the project manager.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, this is really, Joe. It gets us into the position where we can then do an RFP to get that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Very good. Any other?
Mike.
No, I just, maybe a point of information. Jim, did they, believe they came back and said what our reimbursement rate was going to be?
Good point too. Thank you, Mike, for that. So part of the reason why we're getting into the feasibility study phase now is, and the documents will show, it's 52.26% would be our reimbursement factor. So should we not enter into or get into the feasibility stage before 12/31, that rate changes. Now, we don't know what that rate will be, but this
That's
locks
good
us
stuff.
in.
That's good.
So the $1 million feasibility number is really 520,000 or 500,000
Right.
that will be reimbursed through the process.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah, it's great. So
Good
I'd rather have that knowing that it's
absolutely.
52.26 than that's the starting point, right? So as we go through the process and we determine what type of building, for instance, the high school, a green certified building, they have factors that they do add in throughout the process. So you can actually increase that. So that's the
Okay.
minimum.
Great.
Yeah.
Any other questions? I
No.
guess I'm looking for a motion. Does somebody have a motion?
I move that we approve going forward with the MSBA feasibility study.
I'll second that.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion, it does?
I believe it does.
Yeah, go ahead and have a roll call
Let's do
vote.
it.
and that'll be good.
Vignani, aye.
Greaves, aye.
Chair, aye.
Thank you.
Motion passes 3-0.
Okay.
All right,
Great.
thank you.
And 30 seconds, I just want to give you a brief update on the schools while I'm here, so I don't have to come back.
Is it okay with Len?
Mr. Roberta, are you
All right, all right.
I do it on his good graces.
That's right.
Everybody knows I use the back of the mid-desk school, so.
Yeah.
I can take all the time you know.
It was more just a point of information for the committee, is we're always talking about the enrollment numbers and where we stand today. So as of this, an hour ago, when I was rerunning our enrollment numbers, we're up 101 students compared to the end of last year, with the biggest increases being at the high school and the Warren School. That was to be expected. We're pretty close at Mendez and the middle school with our NESDEC projections from a year ago. We're submitting our numbers currently as of October 1 to NESDEC, and they'll update our projections again. We'll have those in December.
Is it at the Warren School because of the full-day kindergarten? Do you think you brought some kids back?
No,
that weren't-
actually,
Oh.
no. It's just that those numbers have been increasing over time. So
Right.
currently, we have 229 in kindergarten. Last year, there were 223. So those numbers are just growing. That's all there is to it. It's I've said we'll level, I think, between 210 and 215, but I'm waiting to see. We'll have earlier registration this year for the Mendez or for the Warren School for kindergarten, so we'll get a better idea of where we stand.
Warren also graduated a small class.
Yeah, Warren had a smaller class that moved forward, but for the most part, they're at 229, 204, and 220. So they're pretty good sizes at Warren.
Now, does
Wow.
the high school increase, does that have anything to do with Marion shutting down? With the
A
transfers?
little bit, Joe. Yeah, we picked up, I think, 7 kids
Okay.
from Marion. We only had 1 kid from the middle school go to Keefe. So the middle school kids are
Staying.
matriculating into the high school. School choice kids, nominal, probably 10 total, because we cut way back on the school choice students, knowing that our class sizes are getting larger and larger. So, our growth overall is about 300 students over the last 5 years. It's pretty significant when you're looking at classes.
And what's the total?
Total students right now, we have 2,734. That's K through 12. We have 120 in the pre-K program. So it's pretty significant. 832 at the high school. When I started, it was under 700.
Yeah, as a high school teacher, I'm sorry. but
No, man, yeah.
That was a huge jump
Yeah.
to see this year. I've been there 18 years. Every year it was like 20, 30 kids increase.
Yeah.
Last year we went from, as Jim said, like 750 to like 830 this
Yeah,
year.
yeah.
And really, it was
Yeah,
like,
that's
wow.
good.
Yeah.
So do we have a handle on the trends on this?
So the thing is, the trends are changing. As much as every year, so twice a year now, we go ahead and do enrollment projections. And we'll get a new projection come December, and then see what it looks like. And that was part of the MSBA process too, was looking at projections. It's difficult. Not all families, I talked to Tara Ward, not all families come in and record the births in the census, unless it's the national census, right? But the local census, they don't always do that. So it is challenging. So I'm just using that 220 number, 215 to 220 as my my gauge for the future.
Really? Okay.
So it's pretty significant. And the other thing is, we have about 600 students coming out of, or 21% of our kids are coming out of the condominiums. It's pretty significant.
Wow.
And Sears Apartments only, right now, currently 20.
So not as
And they're-
many as
and they're at
expected.
capacity.
They expect 60, but again,
Yeah.
you know, we just
don't
met with a
know yet.
family, well, I was telling Michael on Friday, we just met with a family who, they have 3 children in a 2-bedroom apartment at Sears.
Yeah,
So-
we found,
Yeah.
we were expecting, you know, before they started
Yeah.
building 60.
Right.
With the revised projections, it looks like at max build out, they'll be at 40, but,
Right.
you know, you never know.
So we're probably on that pace. Yeah.
Fortunately, our high school is built to manage up to 900.
1,050.
1,050, okay.
Yeah.
So we got some space there,
And the middle school's 900 plus.
right,
Yeah. It's the other schools, we're already over capacity.
right, which
And-
is why we're looking at
Very
Mendez.
impressive.
Exactly.
Okay,
And
very
Warren.
Right.
You know, the Warren School is about 60 students over capacity.
All right.
And any additional increases with your special ed students
So.
in place or out?
Yeah, well, we have a couple move-ins at the beginning of the year. Pretty significant costs coming from another state, and we're then immediately responsible for that cost. So it certainly is having an impact on our budget, but we're working within our budget, and so sometimes you got to, you know, make some movements within. So, insignificant by that I mean a couple $100,000. So, but other than that, no, we're staying pretty stable. I think the programs we're building have really done a nice job.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
So, Jim, you mentioned, do we need to just sign something, or?
So I'll leave it with
Mike, and
Mr.
we'll all
Herbert,
sign it during the
and I'll pick it
meeting?
up
Okay.
tomorrow.
Great.
That'd be fine.
Very good.
Great.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
the update. Appreciate it.
All right, thanks a lot.
It's all yours, Len. No, I'm sorry. I don't know if it is or not.
Well, actually, we have a,
That's okay.
we have a public hearing at 7:15, so, I'm going to, yeah. All right, so I'm gonna say it's 7:15 now. I'm gonna open this hearing for a Class 2 license. And notice is hereby given a public hearing will be held in the Board of Selectmen meeting room located at Town Hall 101 Main Street, Ashland. The hearing will take place on Wednesday, October 17, 2018, at 7:15. On the application filed by Luis Gilberti, he has filed an application for a Class 2 license to allow for the sale of used cars at 250 Elliott Street, Ashland, Mass. Parties wishing to be heard on this matter are invited to attend the public hearing at the date and time noted above. Interested parties who are unable to attend the hearing may submit written comments to the Selectman's Office, Town Hall, 101 Main Street, Ashland, Mass. 01721, or by emailing Susan Roby at sroby@ashlandmass.com. Okay, so Susan or Michael, is there someone here for the hearing?
No.
And so is the applicant here?
The applicant is not here.
Okay.
So should we
So-
suspend this until our
I
next
would
meeting?
I would
Okay.
make the recommendation that we suspend the hearing until he gets the proper paperwork from,
We don't know if he has it or not, so we
well,
should
to make sure
suspend
that he has it so he can present it to us at the next scheduled hearing.
Okay. So, we have a motion to, is the word suspend the hearing?
Suspend
or
the
just
hearing
suspend the
until our
hearing
next
into our next meeting?
And I'll second that.
Motion's been made and second, all those
To November 7th.
to
November
November 7th, so we'll set a
Right, so at
specific
the
date.
date. And I would
Oh.
say
7:15.
7:15.
At
Just
7:15.
Let's make it, all right, 7:15.
7:15.
Okay.
Okay.
All those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, so the hearing's been extended to our next meeting at 7:15. All right, thank you. All right, so, so we have a 7:30 presentation, which I think we can move up. Are the Friends of the Ashland Public Library here and ready to go? All right, so Betsy, you want to take it on? Are you waiting?
Well, I think Ashley is coming to
Okay.
give us some reading for.
Oh, okay. Do you want to do your section first? Yeah, let's let Len get out of here so he doesn't point that telescope at me anymore.
Let's see. We're not asleep here. It's okay. All right. No, Betsy approached me maybe 2
Can you
years ago.
introduce yourself? We
Yeah.
all
Oh,
know
hi.
you,
I'm
but
Len
people watching may
Rabinowitz.
not.
Right. I lived in Ashland 21 years. You all know me, okay? And I teach at the high. I think I've had half your kids in the room, right? Teach at the high school. Okay, I got to find another way to say that. I hate going up to parents and saying I had your kid.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, sorry. All right, it's been a long day for me.
They
Anyway,
taught, that
so-
way you're all
I
set.
taught your child.
I
There you
taught your
okay,
kid.
right.
You're all
right,
set
okay,
there, you're
right,
good.
Yeah.
I was here.
Anyway, I've been a lifelong astronomy enthusiast. My dad got me a telescope when I was, I think, 6 years old, and I just got hooked on it. And Betsy approached me maybe 2 years ago about, starting a library town astronomy program, right? And plenty of towns do it, and I said it's a great idea. And I said before, I really appreciate it. You funded a really nice telescope. This is no piece of junk. Which that's the problem with it. People go and buy a telescope and they buy some piece of junk that they can't figure out how to use, and it sits there and does nothing, right? Not this thing, okay?
And this is what the BAA funds,
Yes,
right?
yeah,
the board?
yeah. It's the same one I have.
Yeah,
All right.
good.
So main things is we run roughly every 2 months town star parties. Michael's been to them.
I've been to one. or
Oh,
two,
yeah, okay. They're successful. There's always 10, 15, 20 people that come out. I'd like to do it a little bit more often. And since I'm here, I'm going to ask you, I'd like to expand it a little bit. I'd like to ask, I mentioned this to Mike, and he said, bring it up here. Normally, I've gone behind the Mendes, right? It's pretty dark. There's parking, all of that. It's open, all that kind of stuff. But I was looking, I'd like the permission to try a star party at Warren Woods, right? Well, think about it for a second, okay? Across from the
Sounds
Warrant
good.
Center where that shed is, there's
Yeah,
parking there.
Yeah.
Then if you're facing the woods, right, there's a vehicle trail that goes all the way into that back area.
Oh,
So I could
yeah.
bring a car back there with this stuff. And that's the darkest area in town. The wide open view.
Great.
Rocky's Field or
Field.
something.
Rocky's
Yeah,
Field,
yeah,
yeah.
wide open view of the sky, accessible. And what I thought is the kids at the high school love this stuff. They come out, and at times we've had them earn, community service hours doing it.
From being there.
Right.
Cool.
Yeah. So for running a star party back there,
That's great.
I'd get some help from the students, tables and cleanup. I assure you, all right, we would protect the Warren Woods.
Sure.
all
Well,
right, 'cause they'll-
email, it's too bad Carl's late. I meant to say that Carl Hackinson's on the
Yeah,
on the stewardship committee.
Stewardship.
Any,
So if
any,
you
any
email
kid
him
that,
and-
any kid that messes up the Warren Woods is going to have to
That's
deal
right.
with this thing.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. The other idea, and I don't think I need permission for this, but there's what's called sidewalk astronomy. All right. You won't get. Some of you have been there with some of the really amazing stuff. You guys see the astro photos and all. I do that from my porch in Ashland. Right.
Wow.
I had thought, though, some people do this. They'll take a telescope, they'll set it up on the sidewalk in the middle of downtown, right? And you won't see those really deep space objects. But sometimes the star parties are not good for the really young kids, right, who might be frightened going out in the middle of the woods at dark or it's late. And I thought, why not just, particularly in the wintertime hours, set it up at the corner spot at 5 o'clock for an hour or two, right? They can see the moon, some of the brighter stars and planets. I assume I don't really need permission for that, but it's a good use of the corner spot, right? Easy. I'm 5 minutes from it. The telescope is 5 minutes from it. But I would like to try a star party at Warren Woods, which would mean also that I'd have to go back there with this thing myself once or twice to do a dry run before I say, okay, let's bring 20 people back there. But the main thing, it's been very successful. I want to do more with it. But that moment when a parent brings their 8-year-old and that 8-year-old sees Saturn for the first time, and they're quiet for a second and then they go, whoa, right? That's that moment. You woke them up for the rest of their lives, right? So it's a fabulous investment for the town, right? And there's more you can do with it, all right? I'll give up, I'll finish my time, but I could run. It is possible you could loan this out, but not like a book. You'd have to take, it's $2,500 of equipment.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't know that that's the best use of that.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Some places do it, okay? But they'd
could
have to sign a
consider that.
contract,
Yeah.
maybe leave a deposit. And I thought what I could do is training classes. If somebody's more interested, all right? or astrophotography classes, right? There's more we can do with this. It's a wonderful investment. and
I
really
think the
appreciate
idea of classes to teach people how to
Yeah.
use it,
Yeah.
and certainly the photography idea, I think that's a wonderful
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah, it would have to, that's more, I don't mind running star parties for free.
Right.
I'd go out there anyway. Teaching classes in astrophotography, I would ask for some kind of stipend. It's a complex thing to do, but I'd be happy to do it, right? And anyway, thank you. It's a
Okay, very
wonderful.
good.
Lenny, I
investment.
just,
Yeah.
22 Elliott Street is where we have that home that's built there.
Oh, is that what you mentioned?
And,
I'm not familiar with it.
It's
Yeah.
across, it's on
it's the
Elliott
old
Street
four-
across from the
Right.
field.
Right, the old 4-H office.
Yeah,
4-H
So-
buildings.
yeah.
And it would be, I think it would be ideal for that location because you have the field out back, you have
Well,
parking.
do I have your permission to go and try it on my own, or?
Try
I
it.
think you
try
need to
Yeah.
reach out to the stewardship committee,
Yeah, okay.
right?
Conservation
Right.
Commission is that, yeah, Conservation Commission.
Well, maybe Mike, you
Exactly.
follow up and
I would,
let me
I
know.
would, yeah, email Carl, I would
Yeah.
say, go, you can always go
And
check it out
I
on your
assure
own,
you,
but,
we would
know.
treat the property, I love
Right,
the Warren
respectfully,
Woods.
yeah.
Right, yeah.
Sure.
Well, the whole thing is about learning respect for the beauty of nature, right? And that it'll help the high school kids, they love it. They'll come out and do the real, well, a lot of the work of it.
Good.
But
Great.
Anyway, it's a fabulous investment, and I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for
All right.
Thank you for doing what you
Thank
do
you.
with it.
Sure,
'cause
yeah. Well,
if no one was using it, it
people
would- it
stop
wouldn't
me
be
in the
worth it.
street and you know, after they're done slapping me or something, you know, whatever. It
All right,
has
good.
a lot of meaning to people. I have to take the
Great.
baby home.
Yeah,
Okay,
great, we appreciate,
darling.
certainly
All right.
appreciate
you.
your,
Thank you very
give
much.
us an update. Do you-
watch your shelf,
Do you
watch
need a
the
hand
chair.
with that?
No, I got it.
He's all
This
set.
is a small one, right?
Okay.
Len.
Oh,
Careful.
There goes the lens.
That's not the lens,
Yeah.
it's just the stand.
Lens. I didn't know Jupiter had a crack in it. It doesn't.
right, okay, Betsy, so are you, we have a hearing we'll have to open at 7:45. You think, how long do you think you'll take?
I think I need 5 minutes.
Oh, okay,
But I
that's
need,
all you need?
yeah, I'm
You need
not,
assistance.
I do, thank you. I can tell you who I am.
Okay.
My name's
Yes.
Betsy Emberly. I'm the president of the Friends of the Ashland Public Library. And one of the reasons I'm here tonight is the telescope that Len just showed off, a little show and tell, is one of the many ways that the Board of Selectmen has supported the Friends through the BAA grant program. And we're planning to include accessories for the telescope in our next application. And next year's summer reading program has a space theme.
Oh, cool.
So we're gonna sort of bundle accessories and some programming for the next application. And a case,
That's not the-
I think you mentioned, you know, it's, the
Case for
lenses
the-
and things are pretty fragile.
Yeah.
And even if we did lend it, we couldn't lend it out yet.
Now,
Because it needs to have a transportation mechanism that's safer for it.
right.
Awesome, thank you.
I'm hoping that comes up.
And one of the things that previously, before we got the telescope, we had often used the BAA grant program opportunity for single event programs. And now we're starting to try and think more multiple programs. So one of the things you funded that we actually haven't used yet because of various reasons was this summer we got a sound system. The large meeting room is wired for sound, but that way we can have some programming out on the front lawn or in one of the lobbies. And we're gonna be using it hopefully before then, but definitely for Illuminate Ashland, we'll be using the PA system that you
Great.
agreed to fund. So thank you very much. And I just wanted to sort of give you some feedback about you. You don't always get to hear the fun part. You work hard and you fund some things that are fun for the community. So thank you.
And it's nice to get those updates,
Yes.
Yeah.
to see how it's being used.
And Ashley Place was one of the, who's one of the library staff members, ran the adult level program. And she actually made this presentation.
Okay.
And so she was going to be delivering the presentation, the verbal part, but, I'm not sure if I didn't verify, so. She's
She's
not
doing a good
here,
job.
Yeah,
and,
you
and
can-
it's
you're doing
possible
great.
there was staffing issues, so she may not have been
Yeah,
able to.
go
leave.
ahead. Go ahead and
Okay,
go through
so,
it.
Just through it.
what button do I need to press to move forward?
Sorry if I turn my
The
back to you
arrow.
folks, it's not that,
Am I pushing this?
don't make fun of my bald spot.
No?
My, yeah.
It's hard to see from that close.
Okay, thank you.
You kidding me? It's perfect for me now.
So this was the second year that we had an adult level for our summer reading program, and it has been very popular. We had 171 adults register, but 141 of them were active participants, and they logged a total of almost 400,000 minutes. And we also had some adult programming, summer reading programming. And we did more teacher tales, and there are just some pictures of some of the adult and children's, and I don't think there are pictures of teen, but we did some teen programming too. The theme this year was Libraries Rock. This is a list of all of the Ashland businesses who supported summer reading. So we get quite a hefty amount of support from a fair number of businesses that are very generous. 150 new patrons got library cards, and the staff, who really deserves the bulk of the credit for creating a successful program, had a lot of fun doing it. It was extra work, but they enjoyed it. And our summer reading, our social media, both the library and the Friends social media accounts, our stats, if you run any, and you can go in, there are ways to look at your stats they have graphs and things. So our views and our stats for our posts soar every summer, a lot more than they do through the rest of the year combined. And some of the comments we had, we love seeing the entire community read together to reach the 1 million minute goal, and we surpassed the 1 million minute goal this year with 2 fewer weeks than we had last year when we also surpassed it. So we were nervous that we wouldn't be able to do it, but we did. Ashland loves to read. And here's a collage of the What's Your For t-shirt team. So thank you for participating, because that's part of the social media campaign to get people excited and participating, and we got a lot of the town leaders who have been supportive of the Friends to join our team, our t-shirt team.
How
And I
many
think that's
years
it.
has the summer reading program been going on? I know it's had different iterations, but
That is a good question, and I don't have the exact answer, but it was before I moved to Ashland in 2004. And when I moved to Ashland, it was actually sponsored by the PTO, and then it was an independent entity for a while, but they needed to have a 501c3, a nonprofit, made it easier to solicit donations, financial contributions from businesses who want to have a tax exempt.
right.
I don't know, Betsy, I don't know if it's the same type of a program, but years ago, when the dinosaurs were roaming and I was in elementary school, we had a very similar program, a reading program that was at the school. It was Mrs. Bumer, who was the head librarian who started that program. That was years ago.
Yeah.
So, I'm sure there's different fluctuations and different,
So the current version, which has evolved, I think Alka Troutman used to run it, and she would include how many years it had in her article that would be published in Directions. She would include the number of years, and I feel like it's 24 maybe, but I would have to go look at the Directions article from a few years ago, because we have not been
Yeah.
including that in our
I know it's
report.
been going on at least since my girls were in
Yes.
kindergarten.
Way back.
Many
Yes,
years.
so it's been a while.
So I
But
don't know,
it's-
Joe, if the version that you participated in
it's a little different.
was, but it's a little different than it was when my kids were little
Right,
too.
it's evolved.
It has evolved. I don't know if there was a gap and it's a new start, but Is he being fresh?
Of course.
Yeah. So,
Well,
anyway.
Thank you, Betsy.
Thank you all for your
yeah.
support of the Friends of the Library for the summer reading program and through the BAA grants for some of the fun programs we get to
for all your
I
time.
just-
offer to the community.
I just want to say, I think it's great that it has expanded to adults. As someone who finds that I find time to read
Yeah.
in the summer and not through the school year, it certainly helped me sort of focus, okay, so that I could read and log, and I just think you, as well as our librarians, and certainly with the additional funding that we've been able to give to the library, that it's open more, is just such a great
Yes,
asset
thank
to
you.
our community, and it's one of those things that
And
just
it
makes
has-
Ashland great.
It
so.
has been so much fun to get feedback from people stop me in the street and talk about how happy they are, especially the last 2 years that the adult level has been added. And the top 3 readers get prizes for the adult level, and there's some
Oh, I didn't know that.
fierce
Okay, I'm gonna have to
competition.
join.
Oh, no, but you have to be reading a lot. What was the top
did they
adult
read?
reader this year? Like,
I can't remember, but it was a
1,000
Yeah,
plus?
it wasn't
ridiculous
fun.
It
It
was
wasn't
a-
fun with Dick and Jane books. It wasn't
No,
any of
well,
those
and it
books.
was a lot of hours that they're
Yeah,
reading.
it was many, many minutes.
Wow.
It was over 1,000
Yeah.
Isn't
minutes,
that
I
something?
think.
Oh, that's great.
Well, I mean, the fun thing is you can, if you sit every day for a half hour and read the newspaper, you can include that.
You can count it.
Or if you do it online, or so it's,
And our top teen level, that's 7th through 12th grade, reader read 100 books. I don't know how many minutes it totaled up to,
100
but she read
books?
100 books.
wow.
Very good.
So,
And it's, it's great to get feedback on the, so we really should, we want to be systematic about hearing back from the people who get our awards.
Yeah.
And so this is
So
great
thanks,
to get
thanks
that.
for sharing
Thank you.
with us.
well, it was fun to report back with the
Yeah.
show
with
and
the-
tell.
the
No,
telescope.
Len got a kick
Yeah.
out of
All
it.
right. Yeah, he certainly
It's
did.
not his baby, but he treats it certainly like
Well,
his
that's
baby,
good.
and he
That's a
really
good
does.
thing.
That's
Yeah,
good.
That's a real
and he,
good
but
thing.
he truly enjoys, and John Esposito, I should give credit to him
Committee.
too, helps him run those star parties.
Right.
And I definitely want to make sure to highlight the public library staff with the summer reading program. They're why it's amazing.
Yeah,
But the support also certainly helps.
Great, thanks, Betsy.
Thank you.
thank
Okay.
you.
So we have a hearing in about 10 minutes. So is there something, Yolanda, do you
do
want to do?
Community Media
yeah,
Day.
well, why don't you go ahead and do that?
Okay. Barbara, if you would step up to the podium.
Oh, that's why Barbara's here.
That's
Now
why
I
Barbara
get
is
it.
here.
Okay.
You need to sign it. Well,
Oh.
I'll read it first and
Sure.
then you can sign it. So coming up is Community Media Day, and we have a citation for WACA-TV, who is a big part of our community. So a Board of Selectmen proclamation. Whereas WACA-TV is a vital part of the Ashland community, and whereas WACA-TV has continued to change with times and provide outstanding program to the residents, and whereas the organization provides programs and information at the local level and beyond, and whereas WACA is a go-to for many in the community looking for information about town politics, sports, civic engagement, and more, and whereas the celebration of Community Media Day gives us an opportunity to bring awareness to WACA-TV, we all understand the importance of free speech and to have our voices heard. WACA-TV provides the community with that outlet and appreciate them for all they do for the community. Now therefore, we, the Selectmen of the Town of Ashland, do hereby proclaim Saturday, October 20th, 2018 as Community Media Day. We urge all residents to make known their appreciation for WACA-TV and everyone that devotes their time to the organization. Because as we know, they have some staff, but a lot of the work that gets done at WACA is volunteers. They have a volunteer board, they have volunteer students that go in and help from the crew, and they have volunteer people creating programming for the station. So, thank you, Barbara, and thank you to
so
all you
much.
guys
I
do.
really appreciate you presenting us with that. Community Media Day was started 3 years ago in Brooklyn, New York by our colleagues at the Brooklyn Media Center there, and it has grown nationwide, and it's a day that, like you said, it's to celebrate the work of community media everywhere throughout the country. So I really thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you, Barbara.
Thank you and your group over there at WACA. They
And,
do a great
you know, I just
job.
want to note, of course, Yolanda's very active on WACA-TV, and a number of people, my daughter was very involved there and really
Right.
learned a lot of video skills there, so thank
Did
you,
a lot
Barbara,
of
for all
work
your
for us, and
efforts.
she was an award-winning producer,
Oh,
too.
yeah. I wasn't going to say that, but
You didn't, I
Be a
did.
proud dad and admit to it, that's okay.
that's right. So, yeah,
So,
so
thank you very much. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Barbara.
All right.
Talk to you
Barbara.
soon.
Have a good meeting.
Yeah, thanks. All right, so we have a few more minutes. I think, well, Roberta, you're gonna need a little time, right, so we'll hold off
Yeah.
on you. How about
the new business?
Yeah,
Accept
I was
the
gonna,
resignation of Cynthia Woody.
you wanna talk about Cynthia? That's probably a good idea.
I mean Cynthia Winterhalter, I'm sorry. I said
Yeah, Cynthia
Woody, I'm sorry.
Winterhalter. So, yeah, let's talk about, just, you know, I just wanted to thank Cynthia for all her efforts over the years in
Yeah.
the Historical Commission. She's a wonderful person, and, you know, we're sorry to lose her. I don't know exactly why. I think she's just ready to move on with her life. But, so Cynthia, thank you very much. We'll
Absolutely.
accept your resignation with regret from the Historical Commission. And we should probably make a note to talk about the Historical Commission at some point, because they're very low on members right now, so.
Yeah,
Try to drum up some new blood for the group.
who's the chair, and can we get them to come in and talk about it and see what's going on?
I do not know if they have a chair right
They
now.
don't
I think
currently.
that may be part of the problem. you know.
The chair resigned as well.
Yeah, they are either down to 1 or 2 members.
Mm.
So there's a,
It's gonna be one, cause we have another one coming in.
Yeah, I thought so too.
so
Okay,
it,
so something to talk about.
if somebody is interested in the history of the town and, you know, wants to do some good work, the Historical Commission, as Cynthia has indicated in her resignation letter, they've been involved in a lot of different projects, like the cemetery gravestones and
Right.
maintaining those and preserving those, and that's been their major project. But they were also very involved in doing an inventory of properties, historic properties, including those that could be listed on the National Register, which you will probably hear more about as we talk about some of the properties that
Right.
we actually have in our possession. So they do a lot of good work.
Okay, so there's the
I-
message.
we
Think
have to-
about that.
Because it's not on the consent agenda. I move that we accept the resignation of Cynthia Winterhalter with our thanks for all her work on the Historical Commission.
Second on that?
I'll second that, and that's effective October 31st.
Yes.
The motion's been made to accept the resignation of Cynthia Winterhalter. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none.
Okay.
Motion
Thank you again,
passes.
Cynthia,
Thank
for
you,
all your
work.
Cynthia.
Cynthia.
Yeah. Okay.
Your dedication to Ashland, for sure.
Yeah. So, do we have time to,
Is Amanda coming in or not?
I don't
Amanda
believe
Amanda
she
is
no.
not coming in.
Okay.
So
And
Michael-
why are, oh, go ahead,
Bob
sorry.
just said, Michael, you just want to tell us a little bit about, and this request, and, this is, Assistant Town Planner, you're requesting that we
so-
waive the 15-day waiting period, and,
So if
I think you all had you all saw her resume,
Yeah.
you had a chance to look at it. I did talk to Sheila a little bit about her interview, but,
No, I just want to point out that Amanda Dumas is, after a pretty thorough vetting process, she's the one who emerged at the top, and so we're pleased to appoint her to this position. She's filling the position that was vacated by Josh Chase, who moved on from being the assistant planner here in town, and he is now the town planner in Westford, so it was nice to see him get that promotional opportunity. But this is a very, important position in that it primarily supports the zoning board, but it really gives, it's designed hopefully to give our planning staff the ability to do some more of the long-range planning. If you remember, we actually have an increased headcount in our planning department. We simply took a clerical position and converted it to more of a professional position when that clerical person retired. So, like I said, we're excited to have her. She starts October 20th. So, as you can see from her resume, she's got a great background, currently working at the, in the town of Natick, in the Community and Economic Development Department. She has done coursework for her doctorate of philosophy, so I guess I get to
In
call
history,
her
yeah,
doctor.
yeah.
So that'll be pretty
So-
cool.
What makes her want to be a town planner? I mean,
Yeah.
she has a lot of great stuff
Right,
on her resume, but why step in as an assistant planner?
This is a career path I think that she chose just working with the town of Natick. I think, you know, when she moved here, and it's just something that she has grown to love. I don't know, you've had more discussions with her.
So, I think that she started at Natick. She has some really great administrative skills that I think will be incredibly helpful to both the planning board and to the ZBA. But while she was at Natick, she really fell in love with the world of planning, and this is an opportunity for her to grow some of her skills. So this is definitely, she's sort of stepping up into this position, and then I think in the long run, she would like to learn enough, and then, you know, at some point.
So she doesn't have a lot of formal training in planning techniques, but you feel, she seems like somebody who has a kind of academic background that she can learn, and
And she
presumably
supported
there's
the
some kind of
ZBA in
training.
Natick, so
Yeah.
she, you know, she's definitely
Right.
familiar with.
She knows.
She definitely has.
But
some
she's the kind of
professional
person, I think,
experience.
you want to, I think, put in some kind of formal training for her, because she doesn't have those kind of, you know, those kind of credentials that you usually see in planners and stuff,
Right.
so.
And she's got great references.
Yeah.
Of course, you know, we always check the references they don't
Sure.
list. And it was, came back very, very positive, so
Good.
we're looking forward to her starting.
Well, we wish her the best, and
I move that we appoint Amanda Dumas as the Assistant Town Planner and waive the 15-day waiting period as requested.
do I have a second?
I'll second that.
A motion's been made in a second to appoint Andrea Dumas, Assistant Town Planner. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. So she
Start date
is,
is 10/20.
she is appointed. All right, thank you. So, also, I didn't note when we started that, two members are not with us here tonight. I think we are expecting Carl momentarily. He's doing something out of town. And Steve is, and otherwise engaged tonight, Steve Mitchell. So I just wanted to point that out. So there's us three in charge of everything here tonight, so we'll
Lock the
see what.
doors.
So we'll be done by 9?
That's it. All right. So, any other quick items? Nah, I don't see anything.
So we discussed future agenda items at our last meeting. Do we need to have that same discussion this time?
Yeah, I think it's, something I'd just like to go over and see if anybody's got anything new, or just, you know,
I'll just email them to
So-
you.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't have anything new, so I would say we can
yeah.
check
Well,
that off.
let's
When it
let's
comes
do
up,
that in
I'll-
the full, let's do that and see
Okay.
if there's any, there was one thing I wanted to throw out there, so. Okay, so I think we're just about at 7:45, so I'm going to, announce, we're opening a hearing, under Mass General Law, Chapter 140, to determine if a dog known as Coco should be considered a dangerous dog or a nuisance dog. And I'm going to use this time, actually, I think it's probably good. I'm just going to read the definitions that were given of dangerous dog and nuisance dog, just and kind of review. This is as a result of the chief of police asked us to schedule this dangerous dog hearing under Chapter 140, so that's what brings us here. And we do have the animal control officer, I believe is here. Okay, good. And so I'm just going to read dangerous dog. This is the item before us here tonight. Dangerous dog, a dog that either one, without justification, attacks a person or domestic animal, causing physical injury or death, or two, behaves in a manner that a reasonable person would believe poses an unjustified imminent threat of physical injury or death to a person or to a domestic or owned animal. And then nuisance dog, a dog that, one, by excessive barking or other disturbance is a source of annoyance to a sick person residing in the vicinity, or by excessive barking causing damage or other interference, a reasonable person would find such behavior disruptive to one's quiet and peaceful enjoyment. R3 has threatened or attacked livestock, a domestic animal, or a person, but such threat or attack was not a grossly disproportionate reaction under all the circumstances. So there's some definitions from the law, and those are kind of key things we'll be looking at today. So I'm going to open this hearing, and
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
if I may, there's a point, clarify.
sure.
A point of order with respect to people coming up. They have to be sworn in, so if anybody's gonna be
Do they?
giving any
Oh.
testimony regarding this, if they would stand up, we would just do it at one time, and they don't have to do
I
it
didn't
each
know that.
individual. Yeah,
Okay.
they do.
So if anyone, if anybody wishes to speak tonight, if you would just come forward, is someone prepared to swear them in?
We can swear them in. All you have to do
Okay.
is just stand up
Stand up
where
if
you
you're
are.
gonna be speaking.
And just raise your right hand.
We'll leave that up to you, Mr.
Okay.
Mignani, yes.
Thank you. You can say, I solemnly swear. Tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God. Thank you.
All right, thank you, and
Thank you.
thank you, Mr. Mignani. Okay, very good. All right, so I'm going to ask Officer Donna Walsh to come forward and Donna, we the members of the board have received your report and the other materials supplied by you, and so we've read that. So I guess, I think I would just ask that you summarize the complaint and the incidents that happened, and maybe given that, tell us your recommendation on this matter. Does that sound good? Okay,
So,
go ahead.
back on October, let me just get the date right. I believe it was the second. We had a situation where I was called to number 15 Buckley Road. Upon arrival, I was asked to go to.
Can you step a little closer? There we go.
Sure. I was asked to go next door to the neighbor's house, where she pointed out that the dog had been trapped inside of the chicken coop, and there was deceased chickens inside. So at that point, climbed over the fence and pushed in the door and got the dog out of the chicken coop, and from there we had to lift it over the fence. It was a 3-foot fence, and by that time, once we got it over the fence, the owner, Ed Perry, showed up, and I turned the dog over to him. In the meantime, I went back, and as I would do anywhere else, I cleaned up the mess so that some child or somebody didn't come upon it, and I held the chickens as we would a cat or a dog at the kennel until we could figure out who the owner was. I tagged the house with my information so she could call, which she called the next morning. I spoke to her at length. I spoke to Kara Terrell that night, and also the next morning I issued citations for running at large and nuisance dog. I did not put vicious disposition or anything like that, because it's not a situation where it's, we don't believe it's a threat to people or other animals. So there was some back and forth between Ms. Perrano and myself. She had a few concerns about the fact that the chickens were removed and no pictures were taken, which it wasn't really protocol. It was very dark and rainy, and we just didn't. So after that, there was a few days passed. I had been sick. I have a large caseload of some pretty big cases, so it took me some time to get through the, all of the issues, and I did take the pictures on Saturday and returned the chickens as she had asked. At that point, I knew that she was upset with me, and also at that point I also referred her over to Lieutenant Borgle. There were some things that I was supposed to send her, which I did not, because the press was called and they had obtained that information already. It was on my understanding. So I assumed that Ms. Perrano had that information, so I did not send her the definitions of the dangerous dog. The report should have been requested by the police anyway. So that's how we ended it. And so during the last few days, I did some research, and because Ms. Perrano feels that this is a dangerous dog. So I did the research. I spoke to Kathy McKenzie of Framingham Animal Control, who's also the past president of ACOM, Animal Control Officers of Massachusetts, and the director of the academy, for which I am a graduate. And she agreed, it is a nuisance, situation. I also spoke to Lieutenant Borgel, who's the director of the Law Enforcement Division of the Animal Rescue League, and he also agreed that livestock is more a nuisance situation where dangerousness is more geared toward injury of people or a dog or a cat. So that's what I have.
Do you have a recommendation? So you're recommending that that this fits the definition of a nuisance animal?
To
Is
me,
that-
it does, yes.
Based on those conversations you had?
Based on those conversations and what I read in the definitions.
And did you also discuss remedies and recommendations on?
Yes, Karen and I have had several conversations. Some work
You
is already.
spoke to the owner of the dog?
Correct.
The owners,
Correct, and she's done some work already. She sent me pictures of a new latch that was put in. She is going to, her dog is no longer allowed outside without supervision, and an electric collar, because I guess they have an invisible fence around the perimeter, inside perimeter of the fence now. So those are what she's done. They do have a very good understanding of the fact that the dog cannot get loose anymore. So my recommendation is that they continue with training and that they keep a very good watch on the dog, not to allow it outside without any kind of supervision, and any other things that they could do to ensure that the dogs stay in, maybe a double gate or whatever they can come up with, would be a good idea. As
I
far as, I'm sorry, I just wanted to mention, we have no records at Animal Control of any issues with this dog, no formal complaints. I've never picked up the dog, and the dog has been loose, it's my understanding, but the owners have always caught it before I've been called in. They're on top of it right away. So that's what I have.
So, so you're making a distinction between dangerous dog and nuisance dog, and why is that distinction important in your?
Well, the distinction is that you are very limited to what you can order for a dog that is considered a dangerous dog. You can either order it euthanized, or you can order it to be put into a containment system with a chain link kennel with a roof, and muzzled anytime it's outside of that area. For a nuisance dog, you can order training, you can order other things that can be done to upgrade her fencing system. There's a host of things. You can order that the dog be restrained at all times when outside the fenced area. Those are your recommendations that you would.
So, okay. Questions from board members about, for the animal control
Oh, and the other,
officer?
on the dangerous, the other would be euthanization of the animal.
So I'm just trying to so have we ever found, I know we're dealing with Zana was a nuisance?
Zena was a
Zena
nuisance.
was a
Nuisance,
nuisance. So we have not, at least while I've been here, had a finding of dangerous dog.
My first year, and it wasn't euthanized, it was given to another individual out in
Right.
the western part of the state, where it was able to roam freely on a farm.
Right.
But that's
Now-
the only thing that I can
Yeah.
remember.
I think with the new laws, that's not an option.
That was 10 years
Under,
ago, though.
right, under the new laws.
So
you
again, the
can't-
options, if it's a
rehome it.
dangerous dog, the options are limited to euthanizing or keeping it in a fenced enclosure
Or, and muzzle,
and muzzle.
anytime it's out of the fenced area.
So, and Joe, did you have any questions or?
No, I read the report, and I'm satisfied with the report. It did get a little confusing. So, in your estimation, it was you took the animals away because you didn't want the children to see the animals like
Or
that.
even the homeowner.
Or the homeowner,
And I
whoever.
didn't want somebody to, I would do that and have in the past done
Okay.
something like that
Right.
anytime, just because it's, that's a shock to hear that, such a horrible thing has happened, and you don't want them to come home and see
Okay.
it. So that's why I cleaned it up.
Thank you.
So Don, before you, so I just want to read this, so when I read this definition of dangerous dog, and you guys can help me with this, it says a dog that either without justification attacks a person or domestic animal causing physical injury or death, or behaves in a manner reasonably believed poses an unjustified imminent threat of physical injury or death to a person or to a domestic or owned animal. So it was pretty clear this dog broke into this
Right.
structure and killed all these chickens, so.
Chickens are livestock. They're considered livestock.
So it's not a domestic or owned animal, is that the,
It's not a domestic animal. Owned animal, it is.
or person or domestic animal, so.
Correct. It's not a domestic animal would be considered a dog, a cat, a ferret, livestock is chickens, goats, any kind of farm animal.
So livestock, so the differentiation in the law, okay.
So a horse would be domestic.
Well, this is, okay, any other questions for Donna? And Donna, you'll stay here
I'm gonna
to
be here.
answer, okay,
Yep.
so I think under the way this works, I believe,
We need to hear from the owners of the chickens.
yes. So the next would be to hear from the owners of the chickens. Are they here, or? Good.
She hasn't
Hi.
been sworn in yet.
Oh, that's all right.
Everything that was said,
I think she I think,
You need to be
yeah.
sworn in first, so they're
Oh.
gonna have to do that.
yeah, you missed the big swearing-in ceremony,
Oh, yeah.
so.
Stand and raise your right
Just
hand right
Steve,
there.
raise hand. Sorry, I don't have a Bible, but you solemnly swear to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help me God?
I do.
Okay, you're good.
All right, thank you. And I just want to make sure, how do you pronounce your name? It's Perrano? Perrano. So I just want to say, I think on behalf, I think of everybody here, I mean, well, I can't speak for everybody, but I think that's my feeling, is that we're very sorry for the loss of your pets. I could think it's apparent from the material you gave us that you thought of these chickens were your pets and your children's pets as well, so. And I know it must be very shocking to come back and find something like that. And I think that's
Thank you.
a feeling that people certainly understand. And
Thank you very much.
So,
I
sure.
appreciate that. Yeah, I cried for 3 days, but, they also livestock, it's true, and they give
Just
us.
step a little closer
Might
to
wanna
the
come a
microphone.
little closer.
There
The
you
mic
go.
needs to pick up your voice,
Yeah.
that's all.
Can I move the chair so I have these near me?
certainly,
Oh, sure,
whatever
of
you,
course.
whatever you need to do.
All right, I'm a little dehydrated. I just came from a staff meeting and raced here, so I'm a little bit frazzled,
okay.
but
Take a
I'll
breath.
do my best, yes.
Sure. And we
So-
did receive your materials, you
Yeah,
sent some
we
pictures
read
and.
everything, so thank you.
Okay, my report and okay, very
Mhm.
good. So, can I just start with, should I start with my take of what happened, my report, and just summarize that?
Sure,
Okay.
and,
Not the whole thing, but it's long.
A summary of it.
Right,
It's fine.
okay. So, on Saturday, October 2nd, apparently, can I say Coco the dog?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, attacked and killed all of my chickens by breaking into my greenhouse. So I do have a picture of the greenhouse. I don't know if you want these pictures. I gave them electronically, but.
we did see,
have
we
And we
did
got
see
to see
them.
them all,
Right.
yeah.
We have.
They were all sent to us, so.
So the coop is wooden and it's about this big, and it's in an even larger greenhouse because birds need light to lay eggs. I didn't want them in a dark shed. And then I realized that it was really sunny and hot in there, so I bought a canopy to go over that. So it was a really nice setup, and a lot of the neighbors' kids would come and see the chickens. And so these are my chickens. And so they're really fluffy. They're called silky chickens, and they're purebred. And some of these are from California. And other breeders, they're just not like dime store out of a hatchery. So this is Ginger and Crystal, and we named them all. And we got the eggs and gave eggs to neighbors. And it was just a nice thing in the neighborhood to have. So there were notices on my door that I did not see on Tuesday because I got home after dark. And these are the notices. So the notice was one from the dog officer and one was from the neighbor. And the neighbor's one was on top, and I didn't see it at first. It said, please call me regarding your chickens. We are terribly sorry, Ed Perry. And I thought it said E.O. Perry, because it's like an O, but I didn't know. Okay. The name did not ring a bell. So that was Tuesday. And then Wednesday, as I was leaving for work in the morning, it was light out, I saw the notices. And I kind of freaked out a little bit, hoping against hope that I didn't understand that. See me about your chickens, what? And so the note from the dog officer said, yes, you had a dog come in and a loose. And I'm like, I don't have a dog, but kill all your chickens. So I ran back and there was nothing. I saw nothing there except for, bits of pieces of bird. And it was true. They were gone. So I felt kind of sad about that they were gone. I know the intentions of the dog officer were for us not to see it, but these were it's like a family member. Don't you want to grieve and bury and say goodbye? So I asked her, why did you take them? Actually, back up. So when she told me the name of the dog, Coco, it rung a bell. Is Kara here? Kara? Yes. Is Kara?
They're both here.
Is Kara here?
Yes,
Yes.
So
she raised her hand.
where? Kara. Okay. So if you recall, a few summers ago, Coco came in my yard, and I told the dog officer this. Sorry, is there water here? My mouth is kind of dry. No.
It's
Okay.
down. It's way
That's fine.
downstairs.
That's fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Jen's gonna get you some water.
So Coco is no stranger to me because a few summers ago, this black and white dog I heard from in the house, boom, 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 against my greenhouse. And I'm thinking, what the heck? So I ran out, and then this dog on my greenhouse trying to get into my chickens that were in there. My chickens were never free range. They're always either in the coop, the greenhouse, or in a run that we built for them that's sheltered, even has a roof on it for birds of prey. Oh, thank you. Thank you. So they're very well protected, and one of the chickens I've had for at least 6 years. So no predators have ever been a problem. Thank you. So I wrote in my police report, I instantly remembered this dog because approximately 3 summers ago, I saw Coco off leash in my yard, throwing its body against the sides of my greenhouse, causing a loud banging noise, attacking my chickens contained inside. I ran outside shouting at the dog, grabbing its collar, and I tried to, pull it away from the greenhouse, like, what are you doing? And for such a smallish dog, of course, I'm used to a Great Dane. I used to have a Great Dane. It was very strong and young. So it continued lunging. Even I'm holding it, it's lunging and lunging. So I didn't know what to do because I'm losing my grip. And my daughter was in the house and I'm yelling, screaming at her, get the leash. So at that time I did have the Great Dane. And so I sat on the dog, sat on Coco, straddling it, and it was flailing and going crazy, how they pant a lot. And so she came out with the leash, and it was fine. I had to drag it away from the greenhouse. The prey drive was really strong. I've been through a lot of dog training myself with my own Great Dane. I know how to train a dog. She was a therapy dog with me in the Metro West Hospital area for years. And so she basically knew English and could sit there in a strip mall and wouldn't move till I released her. So I know, what good behavior should be, and that really shocked me because that was out of control. But the dog didn't hurt me, but it really wanted those chickens. So I guess not Roland, but Rowan, her son, I'm not really sure of the name, I think it's Rowan, came from they don't live too long, too far away. It's like 4 or 5 houses away. He came with his own leash and, hooked it up to the dog, and I said, your dog really, really wanted my chickens. And I was joking, and he didn't joke at all. He said, yeah, she's really bad with other animals. And I wanted to ask, no, seriously, that's what he said. That's what he said. That's what he said.
Sorry.
It's
Okay, sorry.
It's
No,
don't
it's
worry.
okay.
Don't worry. It's okay.
I'm under oath, right? Okay.
Don't worry. It's
Okay. So it kind of scared me. It did. And I don't want that to happen again. So I went out and bought the wrought iron fencing around the coop, so wrought iron. So that was in my direct response to this first attack. But the attack was unsuccessful. It was fine. I was home. But just in case, so that way he couldn't bang his body against the greenhouse. Okay. So I asked Kara, I said, so this is the dog that gets loose all the time. Because, and I confirmed with my neighbors just recently, that they have seen the dog countless times. Out. And even Officer Walsh said yes. And so I said, okay, do you have notices of these getting loose? No. And I said, well, why not? And she said, because unless it's in my control, we can't give a citation. So I said, well, okay. But I was a little confused after the fact, because how does she know about all the releases and the returns if nobody calls her? So maybe she knows Kara. It makes sense. Kara's involved. I didn't know this at the time, but I was just concerned, like, well, why is this dog being returned all the time? Because, I mean, it's a threat. Obviously, it killed 7 of my whole flock. So I said, so you have the dog now. Now, this was all on the phone because I was going to work on Wednesday morning and I was crying. And I said, you know, you have the dog now, right? And she said, no. The owner showed up and I gave it back. So I said, why on earth would you do that? It just killed animals. And I was a bit shocked. I thought dogs should be impounded, at least so it doesn't get loose and you could tell the owners to shore up whatever containment it was in. Maybe there was a hole or something. I didn't want it to happen again to somebody else. So that kind of surprised me. I didn't know the protocol. I still don't know the protocol. We called a couple of animal control people, and they said that for sure they certainly wouldn't take the dead chickens away. I did talk to Kara at that first attack on the phone, and she talked about foster dogs and things, and I'm a little fuzzy, but I remember the foster dogs and how she's training them, and I just had none of it. And I said, you need to control your dog. And I don't want to be your friend. Your dog almost killed my chickens. Just control your dog. Okay. So fast forward, he gets trapped in my greenhouse. So what happened was the dog arrived and I guess pushed in, I could see it, pushed in the greenhouse panel. So I pictured that, pushed in the panel. So panels pushed down. I don't know if you guys saw any of these pictures, but
Yes, we did.
but yeah, the owners. But anyway, so yeah, so that was amazing because the panel that the dog pushed in had a metal strapping across it, and so you know, nothing about that was in the dog officer's report. Like, how strong and determined was this dog? It was very strong and very determined because I can't even push the panel in. So it's unfortunate that it didn't hold. But I tried to do my best, and I even put the fence up. I don't know what else I can do to shore up, because the coop was inside a greenhouse, which was inside a wrought iron fence. Okay, so I asked what happens now to the owners, and I was told it was a $25 fine for the off-leash, and a $25 fine for the nuisance. And I was surprised she called it a nuisance. Because I said, it just killed 7 animals, and it's a nuisance. Yes. Well, you know, if the dog is getting loose all the time, then it's a dangerous dog in my mind, and it's the owner's fault. No offense, but it's the owner's fault. It's not the dog's fault. Yeah, high prey drive, but they must know. So I disagree that they're doing all that they can, because obviously it was not enough. I asked why she didn't take photos, and she said it was dark. But the notice was 5 p.m. And I talked to my neighbor who called her. She was there. And she said it was not dark at all. Even at 6 o'clock, 6:30, it's still light enough to take pictures.
Could I interrupt you for one quick second, please?
Yes.
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
We need to hear relevant facts, not verbatim on the report, which is basically what's happening right now. If you
Okay.
could clarify your standing as to what the information was, how it happened, which you've already done. We've already heard
Right.
from the animal control. If there's any additional
Mhm.
information the ACO has not provided that you can provide to us, that would be
Yes.
very helpful to this. But we
Okay.
don't need to go line by line on your report.
Okay.
That would
I'm
make it a little
sorry.
easy. That's okay.
Okay.
We just make it a
I
little
just made a
easier for
point that I
everybody.
wanted the photos, and she said it was dark, but there's a conflicting thing, that's all.
Okay.
So, part of my, stance here is that I know you're seeking recommendation from the dog officer. I get it. However, I requested another dog officer here. Is that true? Is there no other dog officer from Ashland?
We only,
No.
We have one ACO that I'm
only
aware
have
of.
the one.
Brittany?
So Brianna,
Brianna, sorry.
Brianna was formerly an assistant animal control officer. She's actually one of our full-time dispatchers now.
I understand. Okay, she said she was a dog officer, okay. So, the statement that Officer Walsh said, when I said it was the dog owner's fault, she defended them. So I don't think she's entirely objective here. I'm not being paranoid, it's just, read the report. So many things, she was defending the owners. She said, and this is relevant, because it's a recommendation to what to do with the dog. Okay. Ultimately, we have to follow the law, not a recommendation, but take it all of its data. I'm a research scientist for 20 years. I'm very meticulous. So she said, not to defend them, which I'm not, but they've worked hard to contain the dog by putting latches on their gates and securing their fence. The dog is a Houdini. Now, the dog is a Houdini. If everybody knows about the dog in my neighborhood, and she's even calling the dog a Houdini, then why is it still at large? That's relevant. Something needs to be done. It's not right that it's just tolerated. Whether you're friends or work on the Ashland Dog Park Committee together, or are well-connected, or your father was with the town, I don't know. I'm hearing these things.
That are not relevant to
It's a
this
possibility, that there's a bias.
She's
I am
alleging a
entitled to be
conflict of
heard.
interest.
Yes, yes.
So I have a question. We have read through all the reports and,
Okay.
Do you have a recommendation
Yes.
as to what you would like to see? Either
Yes,
I mean-
yes. Right, I just wanted to mention the bias possible. I just wanted to bring that up. Okay.
You have it in your report.
Because it's not fair to ask her for information. She's not gonna hurt her friend. I get that. I get that. So,
I'm taking-
in her report, she kept mentioning restitution. I have plenty of money. I don't want money. I will eventually get money for the chickens. And they did leave me a message. Okay, I sent that to you?
Mhm.
A message on the phone, like the day after, right? And I did appreciate that, but, okay. The one thing that they said was, that turned me, I won't wanna work with them, like personally, and just have them pay me for the chickens and be done with it. This is why I'm here. A, for safety of my neighborhood's, animals, but because Ed said, again, we're terribly sorry. This is not anything we expected nor saw could occur, but let's talk with you. Thank you very much. So I was flabbergasted because, of course, you can see this coming. The dogs do this all the time, and this is not the first attack on me. Maybe they forgot, but I have phone records that we communicated. So that's strike two. And I also have information from the neighbors, not just about Luce, but the dog has killed a chicken before, and Ed paid him by check, and it cleared because he killed a chicken. This is the same dog, Coco. So there's like 3 strikes. How many times does a chicken have to die, or any animal, before you do something about it?
So we're not aware of that incident that you just reported. and
I
don't-
know.
And I don't know if the animal control officer is aware of it. So all we can do is base our decision and everything that's been factual and reported. Now, if that happened, surely if there was someone that needed to report that, should have been reported. If the victim chose not to report it, that's up to them. That's not up to anybody in this room to tell them to report this.
It doesn't
Well, I'm
matter.
not
It
sure
still
that's-
happened.
I mean,
Well,
it's still evident.
relevant.
I mean, she is-
Well, the relevant
I have his
aspect is,
name.
if it's that important, I understand that.
Right.
Why isn't that person here to testify that?
I talked to him.
Right now, that's
I
hearsay
don't know, we
information.
haven't heard
I'm
from
sorry.
everybody, so.
I'm under
It's
oath.
hearsay information,
Okay.
folks.
Okay.
I'm
Let's
just
let her
using
finish
my
her
law enforcement thing.
This
I'm
is the
sorry,
bias
guys.
going on. It's okay. Listen.
What do you mean you know what's going on? Wait a
No, I
minute,
said this
take
may be the
exception to that.
bias going on. It may be.
I
So,
take serious exception to that.
Joe,
I've been in
let's
the
let
law
her-
office, hold on, Chair.
Calm down.
I've been in
sorry,
the law office
I
for
just-
36 years, so I know criminal law, so I will tell you that that's hearsay, and it's not acceptable in a trial. That's all I'm saying. I'm not backing one or another. I'm just going on fact here, okay?
Is this a trial with a judge, though?
Yeah, I'm not sure this is the
It's
same.
not a
It's
judge.
a hearing.
Apply, so-
It's
It's a hearing.
Sorry, I
Why don't we let her
misused
finish, and I would
Well-
just ask that you
I will, I'm getting to my
limit to
recommendation in the law.
facts
I
and
will.
what you would like
Okay,
from us
I will.
here tonight.
So I talked to Peter Fell of Bellevue Heights last night, because another neighbor actually told me. I was just commenting on our Halloween decorations, and she said, oh, there was another neighbor who was affected by cocoa. So I called them. I emailed and I called and said, do you have an experience, whatever? So he called me right away, and he said, yes. And he charged them $25 for a layered chicken. And he said he couldn't make it because his son had a sports event. And he said, but you can use my name, and you can give him my number, and because I have a cell phone now, and you can check on it. If you don't check on it, there's nothing I can do. All I can do is present the evidence. And the evidence is that this dog killed a chicken and killed 7 of mine, and is loose all the time and got into another neighbor's pool. And I have a list of neighbors who have seen the dog. If you would like the list, I can give it to you in private. I promised I wouldn't use names in public.
I don't think that's necessary at this
Right.
point.
Okay. But
All right,
I
thank you.
certainly don't think that
So
fact should be ignored.
Okay, and so you think this meets the definition of a dangerous dog, and
Oh,
is there
yes.
a measure that you asked us to take in this matter? or-
Okay, so whether or not, and in fact, Officer Welsh did call somebody. If my facts are hearsay, then hers are too. Let's just go by the Massachusetts law and read the definition. So anybody can look it up. The nuisance dog is this, and let's see if it fits.
So
Well, we
before
read
you
that.
got
We
here,
read that.
we did
Oh,
read
yeah, we
the
You did.
definition of a nuisance dog
Mm-hmm.
and of a dangerous dog. So we have
Okay.
read that, so thank you.
Okay. So, the dangerous dog means to a domestic or owned animal. So you're trying to tell me then that it's not a domestic or owned animal. I own them. It's a domestic, that's arguable. It's an owned animal. I own them, and it killed them. End of story. Can't throw it out because it's not, it's some definition, like a technicality. It says right here in the definition, a domestic or owned animal. I own them. You can't throw that definition away.
Well, it says here, so domestic animal designated as domestic by regulations promulgated by the Department of Fish and Game. So what does that mean? Does anybody here have that? So Donna has said that that does not include chickens. Do we know that? Is that
There has been
really
precedent
a
all
matter of
over
law? Okay, everyone who has who wants will have a
Their
chance to speak, so please
Yeah.
don't yell things out from the
Okay.
audience.
I don't have an answer for you
All
right
So
now.
so you've made that point. You're saying that under this definition, your chickens are a domestic animal.
I-
Is that right?
Well, no, they're owned animals.
Yeah.
is
I'm
what
sorry,
she's
so
saying.
domestic,
Or owned animal, it's right there.
a domestic, are owned animals. So you're saying they're owned animals, and so that's the,
Of course.
and I don't see that definition in what we were provided.
So
Does
I think
anybody have
where
it?
there might be a little bit of a confusion because there's a bylaw and then there's also state statute that talks about this in these definitions.
Yeah.
So statute trumps ordinance, trumps bylaw. Bylaws are only filling in the gaps of the law, and Massachusetts law is
Right.
clear. In my opinion, it's clear.
Well, I would say in a lot of cases that is correct, but a bylaw and an ordinance are actually the same thing. There's just one's for a town and one's for a city.
Okay,
So they don't necessarily trump each other.
Gotcha.
But I don't know the specific order in this case right here. I just want to point out the fact that there is maybe some conflicting and confusing information.
right.
And I don't see a definition of owned animal in what we've got here. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So,
Well, what do
I
you,
mean, it's like not-
okay.
I don't think there will be
Is an
one.
animal that you own.
So
right?
we're
That's-
saying
I
that
mean,
the
come on.
definition is self-evident.
Yes.
So,
Okay.
so I'm just seeking justice here, and I think if you try to
Do
get.
you have a specific measure? So
Yeah.
Donna's told us that she's listed the options open to us if this is found to be a dangerous dog.
Yes, there's no other, in my mind, I mean, I can read the definitions. So if you're trying to tell me that I don't own my chicken, then that's kind of weird.
So did you,
So, by the way, there's not just 5 chickens, there's 7. In her report, there were 5. I mean, if you want, I can show you the dead bodies.
so seven,
there's 7
seven
chickens.
chickens were killed.
She
So
was
did
wrong.
you have a specific request to make of us?
Yes, I do. So under the definition of dangerous dog, which that is my request, it must be according to law. It's not, doesn't fit the nuisance. If you want to poke holes in the, and defend the dog,
Okay,
fine.
please speak to us.
Oh, I'm sorry. But the law says that it's a dangerous dog. It does not fit the definition of a nuisance. It just doesn't. It's not that complicated. So here's my request. I do not want the dog euthanized. I like dogs. I think it's the owner's fault. It's not the dog's fault. I mean, that's not what I want. But my chickens were killed. And I don't think the town should tolerate that, even on a technicality. It's just, this is Ashland. I mean, aren't we supposed to protect our animals and our people? Okay then, that's what I'm here for. And it's a hassle, and it's hard, but I'm doing it because I don't want this to happen to somebody else. Okay, that's why I'm here. I'm not angry, and I don't want revenge. I just want the dog control because I don't want to live worried about my pet.
So you, go ahead.
I have emails from neighbors about the dog. The dog has a history, the Houdini thing, and in fact,
So what are you looking for the dog?
so, I'm sorry. So, I'm just trying to find the, Rule 157, Chapter 140. One moment, please. And I'm just following it verbatim. Okay. There it is. Did you read any of 157
Yes, ma'am.
already tonight?
No, not tonight. We
We
have
have-
not read it
oh.
out loud, but I
What is
think we had it, right?
We do have.
I have a copy, an extra if you want it.
So, do you have an excerpt from it you want to read, or what's,
Yes, I
what's your
would-
point? So
yes.
go ahead, why don't
Yeah,
you
go
do
ahead.
that?
Definitely, yes, because this is what it's all about. If it should meet the definition of a dangerous dog, and I believe it does, then this is what the town has to do. And there's precedence, not only in district court, I did a lot of research, but also in the town of Harvard. I think I sent Susan Roby the article. They had to make a similar decision. And it was two dogs that got caught in the kennel, the coop, just like mine. So, 157, any person may file a complaint in writing. I did that.
So what's the
And it-
what are you recommending for the dog?
Okay, so you have to let me kind of speak a little before I get to the recommendation. The recommendation's based on the law. If I can just read the law first and then make a recommendation, I would like to do that.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, thanks. I'm sorry if I'm taking too long. Okay, so file a complaint in writing to the hearing authority, which is you, that a dog owned or kept in the city or town is a nuisance dog or a dangerous dog. Provided, however, that no dog shall be deemed dangerous, 1, solely based upon growling or barking, okay, no. Based upon the breed of the dog, so you can't discriminate, okay, we're not doing that. If the dog was reacting to another animal or to a person, and the dog's reaction was not grossly disproportionate,
Well,
Okay.
you're back in the nuisance versus
yeah,
dangerous
well, that's what
dog.
157
So
says.
can you go down
Yeah, I
past
will.
all that?
Oh, yeah,
Right.
I'm sorry, I'm not, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't have this memorized.
You're making.
asking you to.
Yeah, let
Yeah,
me
okay.
talk to him. So, you're making the case that we should find this a dangerous dog, and you were
Yes.
going to tell us about the options
Yes.
under the law. So why don't
Yes.
you do that?
Okay. Okay. If the dog, okay. Okay, so if the hearing authority deems the dog a dangerous dog, the hearing authority shall order one or more of the following. One or more. Okay. 1, that the dog be humanely restrained, provided, however, that no order shall provide that a dog be deemed dangerous, be chained, tethered, or otherwise tied to an inanimate object, including but not limited to a tree, post, or building. I don't think that's humane either. But restrain is a good word. Yes, I want the dog restrained. 2, that the dog be confined to the premises of the keeper of the dog. Provided, however, that confined shall mean securely confined indoors or confined outdoors in a securely enclosed and locked pen or dog run area upon the premises of the owner or keeper. Provided further that such pen or dog run shall have a secure roof, and if such enclosure has no floor secured to the sides, I want the floor. I definitely want the floor. But if it doesn't, then the sides shall be embedded into the ground for not less than 2 feet. So all around the sides has to be dug into the ground. So the dog can't, dig under. Dig under. Okay. And provided further that within the confines of such pen or dog run, a dog house or proper shelter from the elements shall be provided to protect the dog. This is exactly what I had for my chickens. It had a roof, it had the sides. Now it wasn't dug into the ground, but it also had a dog house. So
Okay.
I think that's reasonable. So yes, that is restraint to me means put it in a protected run. Clearly with the history of Houdini here, something must be done. So I don't think that's unreasonable, and that's request number 1. 3, that when removed from the premises of the owner or the premises of the person keeping the dog shall be securely and humanely muzzled and restrained with a chain or other tethering device. In other words, a leash. We have a leash law. Having a minimum tensile strength of 300 pounds and not exceeding 3 feet in length. Basically, the dog has to be short. It can't be lunging in case like a cat runs by or something. So I do believe in the leash. The muzzle, I'll leave to you. I don't know. It didn't hurt a person.
It's never attached.
It didn't hurt me when I tackled it. I don't believe a muzzle is necessarily required in this case. But if the dog actually got loose, though, on the street, it's just going to run to my yard and kill whatever it finds, So half of me
So
says,
you want to make sure the
I want-
dog's securely restrained?
yes.
Okay.
Number 4, I'm just going to read all of them. There's 7. This is the law.
I think we do have it in front of us. Are you saying that,
So proof of
You want
insurance
all of
for not
these?
less than 100,000. That's probably overkill. 5, that the owner or keeper of the dog provide to the licensing authority or animal control officer information by basically microchip the dog, photographs, so that the dog can be identified should it get loose again. Definitely. Is a dog microchipped? I don't know. But definitely have the microchip.
have you written these up anywhere?
This is the law.
No, I mean,
Oh.
because you're going through and some of it you think
Well,
is
she's
appropriate.
telling us, so I think we
Right.
can have a
Well, I'm
conversation.
just-
I can provide a
Right.
written statement after this if you
Well, I'm
want.
just wondering, because some of these,
All right.
okay.
So, the dog needs to be neutered, and that's for sure. Yeah. It's common knowledge that a non-neutered dog, I believe she's spayed. And then 7 is the dog be humanely euthanized. So I don't think I want that. We're gonna give him another shot, okay? The dog is dangerous, yes. I have the pictures of all my chickens and the puncture wounds, and the dog pulled out the feathers, and these were chew toys. These were not just, break the neck. These were chew toys. They had multiple punctures, and they were really deep. And, if you wanna come see them, come see them. But, I think the dog should be contained, so this doesn't happen to any other animal again. Or if a child's running around with a pet stuffed bunny, or a pet bunny for that matter, it doesn't leap up with its prey drive and get the child. So that's why I'm here, okay? That's why I'm here. We have young kids in the neighborhood running around. I don't want that on my conscience. That's why I'm here. So yeah, have the dog contained with the roof and the digging in, yes, yes. Now, usually, according to the law, if then the dog breaks loose after all of these things are in place, then usually it's established that the dog goes down. We're not there yet, so I don't even want to think about that. Okay, I don't think I'm being unreasonable here, and I'm going to ask them for my losses. Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm only asking for what Massachusetts allows, nothing more, nothing less, except for maybe the muzzle. They also, sometimes they put a sign on the house saying vicious dog. I really don't think that's necessary. We know it's vicious to animals, and I can prove that. Not just my experience, but the other neighbors too, If you would like to look into it, that's up to you. If you want to ignore it, that's up to you. All I can do is say, I know this. I talked to my neighbors.
All right, thank you.
That's it, yeah.
All right, I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
And we'll consider these options. All right, so are there's other people, is there anyone else who, yeah, well, let's go in order. Is there anyone else that wants to speak? It's kind of on behalf of the victim, I guess, the complainant.
Mr. Chair, if I may?
Yes.
So I think just it's important, any further speaker, I think if they can limit their discussion to their evidence of whether or not the dog is a dangerous dog or not, and not necessarily some of the other subjects that we've kind of ventured into, since that's the issue before the board.
Well, I think it's also, it seems to me that we have some kind of legal aspects to review ourselves here, and I'm not sure that people just need to tell us what they saw and experienced, I think. So, is there anyone else that wants to speak on behalf of the complainant? If not, I'll ask the owners to come forward and speak. Sure. Again, if you would just identify yourselves.
Sure. Edward Perry, 3 Hilldale Place.
Kara Terrell, 3 Hilldale Place. First of all, again, we wanted to say that we were heartbroken about this. We are so sorry for Susan and her family. We understand that loss is unbelievable for her, and we are very sorry and have taken every responsibility that we can, and I think we've gone over and above. So just want to clarify a couple things and just explain our experience and what we noted, and more about the factual pieces that we went through. What had happened was Coco did unlatch. We do have an enclosed yard with a wrought iron fence as well as a latch on the front. I sent that original latch to you in a picture. And she was able to unlatch that gate, and she got out. And within 20 minutes, that's when Ed arrived. This was Tuesday, October 2nd. I found the gate open. We were right away into the neighborhood, calling Ed on his way home from work to continue the search. We assessed that she had unlatched the locked gate. We immediately searched for her in the 2 neighborhoods and found her animal control already was there. Immediately, we're giving Coco home into the crate. Ed walked over to the home owners, Susan's home, within 15 minutes and left a note with the name, number, and apology asking to call us. I immediately called Animal Controlled. That evening, we ordered an online, it's called the Educated 1 Mile Range Retrieval e-collar. We got that on 2-day delivery. It's cost almost $400 that we purchased immediately. You can see that it goes up to a mile range, and that has been on Coco since this incident, nonstop.
And what does that collar do?
So this is
You may have to speak into that.
So it's an electronic collar that provides a pulsing sensation and a electrical discharge to correct their behavior. And we've done training with her, and we've had other trainers that she'll speak to about as well. And she's responding quite well to this type of training. Plus, it's a 1 mile range, so we can get her back quite quickly.
We had have trainers through a local agency since July 30th. We contacted them immediately. You guys have a letter from the trainers. 3 trainers had worked with her nonstop. Since then, we've had 5-day take and train, which is where they go home with the dogs, and they take care of the dogs and they do the training in the home. You got the letter from the agency, Doggone Fit, and they were able to say without any doubt that there is no safety issues with Coco or with around children or other animals, which is what was being alleged. The prey drive is consistent. We have gone over what we need to do with that. We are no longer allowing her to be unsupervised in our locked yard. She always has that shock collar on, and we've increased the prey drive training. Wednesday, October 3rd, 6:47 and 6:50, there was one voicemail left by Susan to us. 7:16 a.m., Ed called her and left a message again apologizing, offer any response, telling her how we had already addressed the issue. At 11:35 a.m. that day, and you have the receipt, Ed bought a new latch for the front gate. It's a very heavy-duty latch. You have the receipt, and I think you have a picture of the new latch already installed that next day. 11:52, Ed had left a second voicemail leaving apology, asking him to discuss the incident and offering to pay for the cost of the chickens and any damage to the coop. I just want to note, too, that I did give you guys the picture of the coop. The door was already off, so the door was off of the coop. I just wanted to be clear about that. On Thursday, we received the fine from Animal... It's okay. We received the fine from Animal Control and mailed in the paperwork and the check immediately after that. Again, on Thursday, October 4th, we installed that secondary blade latch on the front gate. We purchased 2 padlocks and chains to secure the 2 rear gates from involuntary opening by humans and ensuring they're only opened by us or Ed. You have pictures of those as well. We received the Educator 1 mile range retrieval e-collar and continued the training with the new collar with trainers and within our home. I contacted Animal Control again, indicating we received no response from Susan, and Animal Control said that she was planning to draft us a letter and just wait for that. Monday, October 8th, we received an email from a reporter from Metro West News stating that Susan and her daughter had emailed them about the incident, but still not hearing any word back from the family. I was receiving repeated calls to me by the paper. I declined to speak with them, but I did give them a brief statement telling them there were no safety issues and we were heartbroken about this and so sorry. And there was an article published. Right now, the additional things that we're doing, I set up an appointment with our trainer who wants to work with us on the prey drive specifically. We're going to be doing desensitization training, specifically around this type of stimuli. We are choosing to take a break from fostering right now so we can focus only on training Coco, and we have another dog.
So Coco's not a foster, is not a dog you're fostering?
No.
It's your pet, okay.
We paid, since this, we basically have paid out $900 with the training, the exercise, and they have taken trains that we had them going to 3 days a week. That's since July. We have had 3 cats around Coco. We currently have a cat. There are no issues in the home. We have children in and out of the home all the time. There are no issues. We have had 27 fosters. You also have the letter from American Lab Rescue saying that they make frequent home visits. They have no concerns. They are feeling safe and secure having fosters in our home. No problems at all. We also purchased dog signs. I sent that around too. Making sure that people aren't leaving the door. We have, kids in and out of the home. We want to make sure nobody's leaving the door open. They say don't let the dog out. We also are looking at installing a storm door on the mudroom, which is a door that possibly could be left open. So we're just trying not to leave anything to chance. And I pass that around. That's a couple $100 as well. The other 2 things I just wanted to, yes, the picture I already had given you of this. And the other piece is just to clarify that, when you're distinguishing owning a pet versus livestock, according to the police report, there was no permit for the chickens as well. And there was a concern that the coop was too close to the home. That was a Board of Health issue. So just wanted to give you that piece.
All right, thank you, Kara. And questions or for the owners, people?
I do have one question. I don't know the dog at all.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of dog is this? What mix and breed is it?
Border Collie Lab mix.
Thank you. Because it doesn't provide that in any report that we receive.
I have documentation of that too, if you'd like to see that.
Okay. No, that's fine. I just was rather curious as to what kind of dog we're dealing with. Thank you.
All right. So, Ms. Perrainen said, is trying to make the case as a dangerous dog, and she had a list of measures that she recommended us to take. And it sounds like you folks are being very responsible in taking measures. How is what she suggested different? Were you able to did you understand what she was asking for?
Yes.
And so do you have specific objections or reasons why we wouldn't instruct you to carry out the measures that she listed here for us?
Sure. I can speak to two of the suggestions that she had was the fenced yard that we do have, and we welcome anybody from any official capacity to come over and inspect it. We've already reinforced the bottom layer of our chain-linked fence, and it's about 6 feet tall, or over 6 feet tall.
It's a 5-foot chain link fence, and we added the lower bar actually submerged in the dirt, so she can't dig out.
As well as the rebar that was reinforced at different intervals. Because we conceded that she has been out before, that's not a question. And mostly the kids from, certain kids from the neighborhood brought her home. And the neighbors from that neighborhood also have written into the Board of Selectmen stating that they have no safety concerns. One of her allegations, the other piece, Rob, was that she's talking about having a chain link, I guess a kennel inside the chain link fence. So I feel like the e-collar that we're using is actually more effective for that. That actually gives me eyes on of her all the time. She's not unsupervised any longer in the yard. We're using that as a constant with her. And the 3 trainers that we've been working with feel like that's a very effective tool.
So I just want to, is it your contention that under the definition, a securely enclosed and locked pen or dog run upon the premises of the owner and keeper, so she'll have a secure roof. So that would be the difference from what you're saying, fencing your yard and a dog run, I guess, or a dog pen. Okay. So yours you wouldn't have a roof, of course. And is that the difference that we're seeing here?
A roof over our yard?
The law is talking about a
small area.
kennel that is, and that has a roof over it.
Yeah,
It sounds like
that's
what
the
they've done
difference.
is they're use an electronic collar versus
With
a
a
closed
fence.
enclosed pen.
Okay.
Right.
And another piece is that, I'm not familiar exactly with the law, but there's a tethering law that, Donna Walsh is very aware of, is you can't leave a dog in
Let me
cage.
so I'm just learning this
In a
stuff
cage.
now, but if it's a dangerous dog, we shall order one or more of the following. There's 7, so it's my understanding we have to order all these things.
We don't have to.
Yeah. So,
Well, I'm disagreeing with the dangerousness. I feel like
okay.
I would go with the official report. I would go with the 3 experts in this case. That was Donna Walsh. That was the woman she consulted with. That's a dog officer in Framingham, and then the other official that she spoke with. I think they're very familiar with cases like this.
All right. Okay. Carl, did you want to ask or say anything?
I do, and I apologize to everyone for being late. I did want to be here at the beginning of this hearing because and who is the my apologies and my condolences to you. This is a terrible situation. I did read all the documentation that we got from everyone, and what I came down with, and I wish that I had been here at the beginning because I don't know how the rest of you feel about this. I feel like we're all too close to the fire to be the adjudicatory body for this particular hearing. And I don't know if there's a default adjudicatory body for this, but Kara is on a committee with Donna, and Yolanda, you're on the same committee. Kara is a town employee. We all know her. I don't know how there can be a fair ruling one way or another before this
She
body.
did allege a conflict of interest.
Well,
pointed
it's,
that out,
I think that
potential
we all have a potential. I'm uncomfortable with it. I'm uncomfortable with the whole situation, and I'm more uncomfortable that I feel that if if this were a court case, most of us would have to recuse ourselves from this. And it is an
I'm
adjudicatory
concerned
hearing.
that's being raised at this point because I really had to sit through a lot of inappropriate allegations about myself, my family, my children. I really wish,
This is it.
I'm not going,
Yeah.
this can't continue.
What,
This
what
can't
can't continue?
Her allegations about my family, maligning my name, speaking about me as a conflict of interest and
Well, I think-
alleging that she and me and Donna Walsh have some sort of a
Well, Karen, I think
inappropriate
it's not,
relationship.
so from what
Well,
I've.
you weren't, yeah, sorry.
So I would just say, I didn't see her maligning you or your family. I mean, but she did, at least not that I noticed in this room, but she is raising a potential conflict of interest because you're friendly with the animal control officer. I think that's simply all it is, and that you know a lot of us. I think that's all it is, that she's, I mean, that's my understanding of it. She's just
I
raising it.
understand what she's saying.
It's not, it wouldn't be an insult. If I were related to you, I'd have a conflict of interest, and it wouldn't be an insult to us, you know, so I would just,
And
I would
didn't
just
mean
ask
it
that
to
you
be
take it
taken
that way, yeah.
But why would I have to come to the hearing and then decide it?
Yeah,
That
and
seems
so-
opposite.
I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but I'm just, I would say, try not to take it personally, that's, okay.
So before I would respond, I was going to say that, yes, I know Kara, because I'm on the dog committee with her, similar to what Carl has said. As Carl has said, all of us sitting here know people, but we make decisions on all kinds of things, even though we know people. So for me, how I was looking at this, and, you know, again, I know Kara, but from what I can tell from the information that Susan is asking us for, it looks like some of the things might not be done exactly as it says by the law, Susan. So the kennel with the gate over it, that is if you're gonna allow the dog out by itself. It sounds like the decision has been made to not allow the dog out by itself. So the pen with the cover, to me, I think it's one of those things where, and we've done this before, we've said we're gonna try a certain measure for a certain amount of time. We've done this with other dogs, and then if after that certain time, those measures have not been met, or there's been another issue with the dog, we then ask the owner to put that next step in place. So what I was going to recommend is, because they've done the electronic collar, and electronic collar does work, the new latches are on the gates. It has been conceded that the hot dog has been out before. It has if it's licensed, it should have all its shots and things like that. So what I was gonna say was, because they've already done these measures, they are doing training with the dog, which we have required other people to do, and if they're not doing it, then we take the next step. I would say is give them, because putting in an enclosed, covered pen is an expense. They've already gone through some, so what I was gonna say is 30 days with the new electronic collar, with the new latches, and if in those 30 days the dog gets out again, then we ask them to take that next measure of putting in an enclosed pen for the dog. That would be my recommendation.
Thank you for that. Carl, did you have anything else you wanted to?
No, I would like to comment to Kara's comments to mine. I'm sorry that you took offense to what I said. When you said at this point, we only got this information several days ago, so we haven't had a chance to deliberate on any of this stuff as a body. And that's how I would have started this hearing, is that I think it's improperly before us for those potential reasons that I mentioned.
Do we have any alternatives to handling this ourselves?
Well, it may be something that we could have considered.
The law and the bylaw states, well, the law states that any person may file a complaint in writing to the hearing authority that a dog owned or kept the city or town as a nuisance dog or dangerous dog.
And I guess my question, Michael, is there a default hearing authority in such a case like this?
Well, and then the bylaw then references the Board of Selectmen.
And I guess I would say that, I'm not sure, we have a classic conflict of interest. I mean, we're a relatively small town, so we know people. I'm not sure, if we have a potential conflict of interest. I'm not sure it's that clear. But how would you say, why would you say we have a conflict of interest?
I say that we have an appearance of a conflict of interest, which oftentimes is worse than having a conflict of interest. I feel uncomfortable with it if the rest of you don't. And I'm not even on a committee. I've had dealings with Kara on the Nyanza committee and other things. I don't know the person that filed the complaint. And just the fact that Kara's a town employee, I think, creates an inherent appearance of conflict of interest. It's my opinion. It doesn't have to be your opinion, it's my opinion.
Well, we do have the option of extending the hearing to another point if there's something we think we should do to research this matter further.
Well, we should address this issue of name calling back and forth and have some kind of a detente here.
Yeah. Well, hopefully that will happen. But Joe, Michael, do you have anything to suggest or add?
No, I've sat here now listening very intently to everything that had to be said and the recommendations by by Susan, if you don't mind me calling you by your first name, if that's all right. And I guess I would ask her that if she thinks that we are in a conflict of interest and we're not going to support the recommendations that have been asked for, then I would say there would be a conflict. But if we actually go along with, and these were some of the suggestions that I had made after I read the report, what I would want. One of them was more training for the dog, which we found out tonight. Additional training, I'm sorry. Behavioral training, electronic fence, and or a electronic collar. You have a fence and a collar, and any repairs and any damages to the property of the victim and the replacement of the chickens, whatever that extent would be is at that, well, that goes unsaid. That has to be done. So those were some of the things. So I was following along with some of the suggestions that you had already stated, under the hearings, and what is required. So, I mean, if you don't have a problem with those, and you don't have a problem with this board making those decisions, but if you do, let us know now. Then we'll have to find someone that will make those decisions. If you feel that there is a conflict and you're not going to be treated properly or fairly. Sure. Yeah. Please come up.
Well,
Yeah, you need to be at the,
why don't you
come to the microphone.
You guys don't go too far.
Somebody else.
Go
who
ahead,
wants to talk.
Ms. Brandon, come on up.
Yes, so I'd just like to address the door was open thing. If the door was open, the dog would have just run in. No, I get to, no. So it's like blaming me for this incident.
Well,
But that's not the question that I asked you.
That was just a comment,
I'm
and
asking,
Okay.
right, I'm just
Correct.
asking.
The dog would have not been trapped, so I just wanted to let that clear. It's extremely
Okay.
secure. It can't even open, it's in the frame in flanges, U-shaped flanges. You can't push it in, you can't push it out. You have to slide it sideways.
So,
So anyway, okay, so as far as the training goes, you can't untrain prey drive. You can't,
right,
very
let's,
difficult. And there was a case just like this, if you care to listen. It was from Durban against.
we actually need you to step a little closer to the
okay.
That's
microphone.
not what Mr.
So
Liani
listen,
asked either.
so this is, it's relevant. It's relevant to educate everybody, because I didn't know about this either. So the owners introduced a lot of evidence about, we'll buy a new home in the, country. And yes, it has a fence. Clearly, we've already established that this fence is ineffective 100 times over. It's ineffective. Even latches are ineffective. And so I don't think it's quite commensurate with the crime to put a collar on the dog, because batteries run out. We get busy, they will fail. Then we're back at square one. And number two, 30 days. Well, I don't know how often the dog gets out. I know it has a history of getting out, and when it does, it's too late. All I'm asking is to put a roof. Yes, a large kennel, doesn't have to be small, can be as big as this. Put a chain link fence with a roof and a kennel according to the law.
So in your mind, the roof is the important difference from
Yes.
what they've.
A roof and a
Okay.
floor, that's the difference. And I don't think I'm being unreasonable for that.
All right, thank you for that. Michael, did you?
And a judge actually found evidence that they're talking about unconvincing, because it established about they're friendly with cats and dogs and trainers. It established, and this is verbatim, at most, that the dog was not aggressive when it was in the presence of the owners, regular visitors to their home, and dog trainers, all controlled situations that did not replicate the instances of the dog's menacing, and in this case, murderous behavior. Oh, sorry, mouth is dry. Murderous behavior toward unfamiliar animals, including small pets owned by Ashland residents and potentially to their small children. The last sentence was mine. She tossed it out. It's all controlled. It means nothing when the dog is loose.
Okay, so your contention, okay, thank you. So I didn't get to the point of asking if there are other people who wanted to speak tonight. Just a show of hands, are there other people? Okay, so why don't you come up, and you may want to line up, and please try to limit your remarks to facts as you have observed them.
We're now limited?
Okay. Do you have a statement to make?
Yes, I'm Caitlin
Don't start
Terrell.
arguing with me. It's been a long night already.
And I'm from Hopkinton, and my sister and Ed are the dog owners. And I would like to make a comment that I'm not a dog person or an animal person or a nature person, but I've been around Coco since they got her when she was a baby. And my children, who I'm very protective of, especially around dogs because they make me nervous, are very safe around this dog in not controlled situations, not around my sister. My parents have had the dog. We have babysat the dog, dog sitters, that kind of thing, and the dog has been perfectly fine. I think my sister has gone above and beyond taking measures to prevent this from happening again, because she is a huge animal lover, even of chickens. So I think that, you know, as far as measures being taken, they've taken tons of measures, especially with the shock collar, which I think those are very effective. And I think that what we're seeing is that nothing would satisfy her until the dog is in a pen. So I think that we just maybe need to hear from other people who have opinions about that and just make a decision.
That's what we're doing.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. I'm Jane Dyer. I have been showing and training dogs for almost 30 years. I am the American Rottweiler Club breed referral person for the United States and AKC. I came here just to hear a meeting, and I was very surprised to hear what I'm hearing, and I'm very concerned. Chickens are livestock. They are food, and unfortunately, we even do it with our cats and our dogs. We tend to humanize them and forget that they're animals, that they do follow instinct. You said they're border collie and
Yeah,
Talk
you
to
should,
us.
Bird
you
dogs,
should, you
bird
should talk to
dogs.
us, please, ma'am.
Okay,
Just let's
bird
not have a
dogs.
dialogue with the.
training is great. I think they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. And they're probably going out of their way even more. I would be concerned more that they train a little bit themselves instead of training, what was that, training out, what was that called?
Something where the dog goes to
Where the
prefer
dog
meat,
goes out
right.
to be trained. You need to train it yourself, more hands-on. The chickens, I mean, my cat would kill chickens. It's gonna happen. Maybe some electronic fencing around there. I know people who have chickens, who show chickens, and they love their chickens. I've never heard of having them in an enclosed area, because they also need light, but they need fresh air. It's not good for them to be in something like that, an igloo situation.
Okay,
24 hours anyway.
I don't know that
It
this is
needs
about the
to-
space that the chickens are in. It's about the
Correct.
dog that we're looking, if
It's
you'd like to
about
give
the
us some
dog, I
feedback.
understand. I'm just saying, both people have to cooperate together. And they really, I don't have a dog in this game. I don't know any of y'all, okay?
okay.
I'm just here. And I just think that it's important for you to remember what you read about the rules and about the law and about domestic animals versus livestock. And if you wish to change the law, then you should work on that.
We should get an interpretation because it's not at all clear to me what that
You know?
says. Okay,
Well, do you
thank
eat
you.
the eggs? If you eat the eggs and you eat the chickens,
I don't eat
Yeah,
the chickens.
okay, let's.
they're
okay.
livestock.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Next person.
Hi, Kim McGrail, 372 Chestnut Street. I think you'll hear from everyone that's here on behalf of Karen, Ed, and Coco that we've all had experiences with her since she came into their homes 6-7 years ago. That she's friendly with everybody that she encounters. She loves, the attention and playfulness, and she's been around, I think, over 25 foster dogs that they've had in their home, as well as their cats and little kids. My kids have been there. I've been to their house on multiple social occasions with.
Irrelevant.
Excuse me, ma'am, you had your opportunity to speak. Let these people speak.
Thank you.
But one thing I wanted to mention too is that I've been out on multiple walks and runs with Kara and Coco in the state forest, and multiple, animals that, wild animals out there that she could have easily smelt and attacked or whatever, and never once was there ever any kind of issue like that. So I think
Okay.
that's something important to consider as well.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
I'm Candace Wilson. I'm at 19 Deer Ridge Road. My son is a good friend of Kara and Ed's son, and for at least the last 4 to 5 years, and has stayed at their home many times over those 4 to 5 years, and never once has he ever been threatened. I have never been threatened by Coco or any of the dogs in their care, and I have actually lied on the floor with all of the dogs and allowed them to lick me and play with me and roughhouse with them, and they've never in any shape or form ever made me feel threatened in any way. I feel as though they have take great care of their animals, and I would certainly be sad to see that the dogs be separated by a pen when they are allowed now to play with one another, because she does have other dogs in her home. So I'd be curious as to what the town has for bylaws on having chickens. I'm curious myself. I don't own chickens, but I'm not saying that I wouldn't in the future, but I'd be curious as to what the town has for laws around homing chickens in their backyards. So,
I don't know, is anyone prepared to answer that question?
That's irrelevant to this question.
Okay, I thought we might want to just get it out of the way.
I'm just curious, that's
Okay.
all.
Yes, is there anything else you want to add?
Nope.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I guess as you prepare to deliberate, I think, and I apologize, maybe I should have kind of set this up before. I think, I want to reiterate some of your comments. I think all of us feel bad about Ms. Moreno and her loss. And I think it's unrealistic to expect that you can extract emotion from this type of thing completely. I think that's really difficult. But ultimately, what's before the board is to make a determination as to whether or not the dog is dangerous or not, or a nuisance or not. And the law is very clear that it's the board's authority and the board's ability to make that distinction. And I think where it lists specific instances, it lists specific instances where you cannot consider a dog a dangerous dog, like if a person's being attacked and it's defending its owner. But otherwise, it's within your purview, and you hear evidence supporting whether or not it's a dangerous dog, and you hear evidence contradicting that fact. And then at that point, You make a decision as to whether or not you feel it's a dangerous dog or a nuisance dog, and then you move to the point of, okay, if you have deemed it a dangerous dog or a nuisance dog, what are the steps that you're going to take in place? And I think, unfortunately, tonight things got a little bit crossed and a little bit mixed and mired. Again, I think it's really impossible to totally extract some of that stuff, but I think it sounds like you have made a decision that, there is an issue here. Maybe the dog is not necessarily a dangerous dog, but it's a nuisance dog, certainly. And it sounds like there are steps that you want to take to make sure that this dog can stay restrained or contained. And Ms. Perrano has made some suggestions, and Ms. Terrell and Mr. Perry have they have done some things themselves. And I think you need to decide if that's enough to mitigate some of the concerns that you have about this specific dog and its dangerousness or nuisance.
My question to you, Michael, is this dangerous dog definition, we seem to be at least, this phrase poses an unjustified imminent threat of death to a domestic or owned animal. And
Well,
that's the complainant's contention that this dog does, because, so what's our how do we read that sentence?
So you make a determination whether or not a dog is dangerous, and for your determination, it's you believe in a manner that a reasonable person would believe poses an unjustified imminent threat of physical injury or death to a person or to a domestic or owned animal. Now, as you're making that deliberation, you're taking into account things that have happened before, right? So like with the situation with Ms. Perrano. It doesn't mean that if that happened, you have to automatically apply this definition to that animal. It is, once you make that classification, though, that it's a dangerous dog, that's essentially what you're saying.
Right.
You feel it meets
We have
this.
the list of items here, which may do
Correct.
one or all of them, or, okay, thanks for the clarification. Are we ready to deliberate on this? Yolanda's you've suggested a number of measures, which are similar to what Joe decided. Do we have to make a formal designation of dangerous versus nuisance? I think that's what you're suggesting. Is that and Carl, are you prepared to move forward with this, or do you have a suggestion that we should do something
don't think that I
different?
should, because I missed a good portion of the hearing.
Yeah.
But I would not feel comfortable, I don't believe, even if I had not missed, for the reasons I stated before.
And the only thing I would consider perhaps putting off action, if there's reason that we could find out something, if there's some other information we need to explore or find out, such as Carl's contention that there, if we feel there's a potential conflict of interest, is there any other body? And I don't know, is there anything like that?
There are, for instance, on the Conservation Commission, if we were in this situation, the default Conservation Commission is the Board of Selectmen. If we were in a position where we couldn't deliberate on something for whatever reason, either we didn't have a quorum, we didn't have enough people on the commission, or we had a large conflict of interest. This is different than other, I see it as different as other dog hearings that we've had. I haven't known anyone on either side of the previous dog hearings, and so I didn't feel conflicted at all there. I see this situation differently, and I wish that we had more time. We just got this stuff a few days ago, and all of us work, and so it's not like it's the only thing. And I apologize to both parties. I know it's a big thing in your life, and all of this is important to us, but it's not the only thing in our life. Sometimes we have limited time to consider this stuff before we get here, and that's what jumped out to me. And I don't want to belabor the point that that's where I am.
All right. I saw a handout there. Do you have something to add to this discussion, sir? You have to come forward.
You need to come to the microphone and
Please come
identify
to, yeah.
yourself.
The difference in this
Yeah,
context.
could you just say your name, please?
Mark Walsh, 2 Meadowbrook Lane.
Oh, you live here in Ashland, okay.
The difference in this context of between livestock and a pet, if these chickens were sleeping in the family members' beds with them, that's a pet. If they sleep outside in a chicken coop, that's livestock.
Is that, where do you get that from? Is that your opinion, or is
I'm
that?
an ACOM certified animal control officer.
Okay, and so you're saying that this dangerous dog clause does not refer to this case because they're chickens in a coop? Is that what you're saying?
I'm just identifying that these are definitely livestock and not domesticated pets specifically.
Which is what the Mass General Law is referring to here?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Well,
That's all right, thanks. Thanks, I appreciate the perspective.
you know, seeing you asked, I did have an issue with this because, as you know, I own horses. My horses don't sleep in my bed with me.
Hope not.
And they are probably considered livestock, but they're also owned. And so I just won't go any further with it. I think that this is ambiguous,
Yeah,
to say
okay.
the least.
If you feel, if you would like me to go and do some research and see if there is another body that could hear this, I'm happy to
Or
do
if
that.
there's some, I don't know, what you guys, the other thing I noted, that Mr. Mitchell is not here, and I know, would like to subject him to the same process if we could, so.
I think that there are certain issues that we have to address this evening somehow, as
Yes,
far as
well, there's an immediate
going
issue,
forward.
that's clear. Well, are there other?
But
yeah.
maybe not a final
Yeah,
determination.
maybe that's, and the other thing I would, it seems to me this phrase is a little ambiguous, and I'm not sure if there's other precedent that we could be advised on. People have made different allegations here tonight, and, you know, we don't have legal representation here or research on that. So I'm just suggesting that may be another reason to extend this hearing for a final determination. What's the sense of the board? I mean, we do have an immediate action, and I think the owners have already undertaken and have suggested measures that at least maybe in the short term are acceptable to us if we extend this. I'm just throwing out these ideas here. What are people's thoughts?
So are we looking to extend this hearing to, I don't know, can we do it, probably not our next meeting, but the first one in November?
That is our
next
we
That
meet
is our
in
next
3
meeting.
weeks.
Sorry.
Yeah, we meet in 3 weeks, yeah. Well, what would there be
with-
to gain from that, yeah?
I don't know, except maybe to understand, you know, the difference in regards to that owned animal comment in regards to dangerous animal.
Or a
Dangerous
short-term solution versus a long-term solution.
So how do you
Well,
mean that?
we offered a short term with a
Yeah.
review in 30 days.
Yes.
And, you know, the other thing would be restitution to the owner for the chickens that I mean, that's, I think, part of it, but I think we have the understanding that the dog owners have done a number of things, in regards to, they're not gonna let the dog out by itself. They've added a new electronic collar, they've added latches on all the gates. Of course, it has to be on a leash, anytime it goes off the property. We do the 30 days, or if we wanna do it the next hearing. And we would ask the animal control officer that anytime this dog gets out, we get notified as part of it.
And so we would extend the hearing with those recommendations, those measures in place?
So keep it open.
Keep it open.
For
Keep
this
it
trial
open.
period.
Suspend a hearing today with these things in place that they have to do, and then come back to our first meeting in November and have done some more research on, you know, to Carl's point as to, you know, understanding better dangerous versus nuisance dog, and then make a final determination there as to what kind of dog it is based on other information we might get.
So would we make a recommendation of restitution at a certain time frame or before we meet prior to?
I think restitution has to happen either way.
Either way, I
I mean,
understand that,
there
but
was a loss, so.
that's
Is
correct,
that
so
our
that's why.
rule? I mean, we certainly could recommend that. Is that, okay.
Well, it's in the report that there was a willingness to.
The dog owners have said that they're willing
Right.
to do
Sure,
restitution.
okay, so we'll
So-
include that.
Would it be sooner or later, Ms. Prano, yes? Well, if you want to go that way, but if you can
come to the
deal with
microphone
the
to talk.
individuals
we-
individually and come up with a figure
Yeah.
that would be suitable for the restitution, for the repairs of your chicken coop, the greenhouse, and the chickens that were destroyed.
So do I have the option of either one, or?
Well, we'll make our recommendations in this case. I don't think that limits you to being happy or satisfied with it
Okay.
under any other action you're
Right.
going to take. I think that's what I was getting at.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, I don't feel comfortable with this. 30 days, the dog doesn't get out, we're all good to go. The damage has been done already many, many times, so I don't think it's enough. I don't think that's enough.
I'm sorry. What is enough? I guess I have to
Well,
ask.
she wanted-
Enough
kennel
is
with
following
the-
the Massachusetts
Yeah.
law, not making it up as
She
you go.
wanted us to do these measures.
It doesn't
that
say
she went
electric
through.
collar.
No, I understand,
I
okay.
want to follow the law.
All right, so, thank you. Okay, so,
Wanna follow the
all right,
law.
so we have, I believe we have a motion from Yolanda to extend, the word is, suspend the hearing to our next November 7th meeting, at which time, during which time the owners will implement the measures that, are we clear on what those measures are? Did someone write those
So,
down?
Not
or-
letting the dog out by itself, keep the new electronic collar in place, install the latches that you've talked about, and making sure that anytime the dog is off property, it's on a leash.
And to that, I would add that we're gonna do some legal follow-up on the definition of dangerous versus nuisance, and also I think.
To the letter of the law, so that way.
Yeah, so we
it makes
understand how we
everybody happy.
should interpret this and our duties under that. And Mike, I think you offered to follow up on the conflict of interest if there's anybody else that we should be, and if there's any, maybe town council has some, okay? So, does that motion, do we have a motion? Is there a second
Well,
on that?
Before we do that, does that satisfy the
Oh,
parties?
we can't vote till I close, I'm
No,
sorry.
I
Go
understand
ahead.
that,
Yeah.
but does that satisfy the current situation for Ms. Prano right now, so that way she feels that she's getting properly represented and being heard?
Well,
I guess that just want, I wanna have that on.
You wanna
I
come
have a
back
record.
and answer your question? I would
Please.
say I know her answer. Okay, Mrs. Parainen.
Well, is it yes or no? It's a simple one,
Okay,
yes or no.
well, let her,
So clarify for me, your proposal is to just don't make a decision and educate yourself and see if there's precedence with respect to the situation, and then meet again on November 7th, and then decide after you get more information.
To determine what type of dog it is, whether it's a nuisance or a dangerous
Right.
dog.
And the reason we don't know that right this moment is why?
we have conflicting interpretations of the law.
Based on what
And our-
terms?
Well,
Okay,
and
so
I think they also
I
have
think-
conflicting evidence.
Yeah.
Plus, we, as you know, Carl mentioned, we got this, some of it last week, some of it earlier this week.
Mhm.
So we can better educate ourselves as well, to
And
make a better determination.
And we're implementing these short-term measures. I mean, even if we were to order a kennel, it's not gonna be done tomorrow. So,
Right.
we're doing some short-term
Okay.
security measures, and the owners have been very cooperative in implementing things, so.
And as far as the conflict of interest, do you think that you should exclude yourself?
Well, we're looking into that.
Okay.
Okay, so that's,
Okay.
all right.
Because most of the cases that I've looked at, they're all in district court, but I suppose a lot of the towns just
Well,
don't
this is
publish
not a-
anything,
I guess
you
the
know.
difference is, this is not a court.
No, I
or,
know.
It's very
This is the only
different. It's
database I
based
have.
on our bylaws, it's based on, the law, it's not,
Is there
know,
an,
it's-
I would
the
assume
bu-
there's an appeal function of the Board of
Well, there must
Selectmen's
be, but
decision?
I guess.
We don't know
I-
what it is.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so I'm going
Okay.
to close the hearing, I think.
Suspend it.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna suspend the hearing until next week, so.
November 7th.
November 7th is our
November
next
7th.
meeting.
Rob,
Oh, okay, come up. Yes, come
The
up.
microphone.
I was just wondering why the interpretation of the Ashland Animal Control Officer, the two experts that she consulted with, are not being considered or honored.
I'd say they are being considered, but we're going to do our due diligence.
We just want to get more information to make sure that as we make a determination, we're making an appropriate determination based on all the information we can get.
Okay, I'm concerned about that.
Okay, thank you. All right, so this hearing is suspended to our next meeting on November 7th. Thank you all.
And do we have a time for that?
And do we, since I've now, can we make a motion as to the intermediate acts now?
Well,
Or
I
is
mean,
there any need for that?
You can make a suggestion, I mean, unless you
And I
make
think
a
we have that,
determination.
yeah. All right, so we've made that suggestion, okay? Is there?
Yes.
Okay, thank you all.
What time on the 7th?
7:15?
Pick a time. Well, we
Yeah,
already
7:15,
gave away
we already
7:15. I would say 7:30.
7:15 is for the class 2, so
Yeah.
7:30.
7:30.
Okay.
Oh, that was a tough one. Okay. Okay, so, open space and recreation update, Roberta.
Thank you, I'll be
You
quick.
may want wait a moment or two for people to clear out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if she's,
I understand that, but
if
she
her
wants to
chickens
put
are
a lid
supposed to be
over the lot.
permitted, and she's going by the law.
Wants to put a lid over the lot, she better have a goddamn permit.
Oh, there is that.
Mike's still not.
I don't care.
Yeah, that's why you should
Really?
recuse yourself. Well, we all should recuse ourselves.
Really? Well, that would be,
Well, you're right, Ken, we should all be consistent.
Hot
well,
bench.
it's tough in your small town, you know people.
That's irrelevant.
Really?
We're voted by the people of the town.
Well,
There
that's
are
what I'm
certain
saying,
people
so-
that, and certain things that we're closer to than others.
I suppose we could say that for everybody, though.
I think that's I think it's
That's
hard
why
to know when the,
someone would
when
have
the,
to recuse themselves
where
from
the
every
line
vote.
is, right? It's hard to know when the line is, when it's really significant and when it's not, so.
Have to recuse himself from
Yes.
every vote.
Okay, that's.
Yes, Ms. Roberta.
Hello there.
Soolman, how you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for the invitation to come today.
Thank you for your patience.
No problem. I'm Roberta Soolman, the chair of the Open Space and Recreation Committee, and I live at 28 Woodridge Lane. So we were asked to give an update of what the Open Space and Recreation Committee is working on right now and the things that we've been doing, say, in the last 12 months or so. So that's how I've prepared this, and that's what I'm going to present.
Great, thanks.
This is a list of the current committee members and their terms, and I just thought that I wanted the folks to be recognized for the work that they're doing, and the committee consists of William Child, Martin Ring, Judith Sallet, Amy Syed, myself, Jean Walker, and Greg Wands. The committee was established by the Ashland Board of Selectmen in 1989, and it was created for two purposes. One, to foster conservation, recreation, and open space planning, which is an enormous undertaking, and also to create a land trust or its equivalent under which the town can accept, administer, and maintain open space acquisitions. And that was according to an article published in Directions by the then Open Space and Recreation Committee Chair, Stephen Freed. Okay. Our two main projects that I want to talk about are the Open Space and Recreation Plan and then also the Riverwalk Trail Enhancement Project. So the Open Space and Recreation Plan that we have right now has conditional approval for 2017 to 2024. And it's an update to our existing plan that we did in 2007, updated in 2010, and now we're updating it again. And although updates are extensive, they are nowhere near as extensive and don't require as much new information as the original plan would.
And who gives the provisional approval?
The Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs. So the Open Space and Recreation Plan and the updated plan has to follow very specific content and format requirements. And the reason I'm mentioning that is that when the plan becomes totally published in paper and as well on CDs and distributed around town to the various relevant committees that have some interest in the activities and the action plan, people might say, well, this is it's redundant. Why is it in this order? Why can't we move stuff here? Why do you have this? Why do you have that? We don't have a choice. You actually even have the chapters are in order as to what you have to put in each chapter. There are required maps. There are required items in the appendix. And it's submitted to and approved by the Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs. They can grant conditional approval and then request additional information before granting full approval. And once you have full approval, the municipality becomes eligible for state grants. Prior to our submitting for full approval, we will be coming to the town manager as the chief municipal officer, the planning board, and MAPC for letters of review. Those are required for submission for full approval. We have to have letters of review. Because we've had a grant that had full approval in the past and we have approvals moving forward now, we were eligible to apply for state grants. And I just want people to know that we've received $800,000 in state, $500,000 in a state land grant to purchase Warren Woods and $300,000 in the Land and Water Conservation Fund grant for the Riverwalk Trail. So the open space plan is a very important vehicle to leverage other resources and opportunities for the town. The status of the current open space and recreation plan. A couple of points I want to make about that. As I said, we did an original plan in 2007 and update in 2010, and this is another update. And at each one of those points, we're required to have had public forums, not hearings, but public forums, and to solicit input through a variety of mechanisms, which we have done. And each time we have done that, and I'm going to talk about the goals in a minute, but each time we have done that, the public has given, without reservation, reaffirmation of the goals, the objectives, and the activities, so that we know we are on the path that is being endorsed by the residents of the community. We submitted our update in 2017, and we were conditionally approved, as I said, for 2017 to 2024. They requested some additional information, a little bit. Some of it is information that is in the plan that we're just going to have to highlight more for them because it is there. But then there are other things, and I just gave a sampling of some of the additional information that they're asking for that we are currently compiling in order to submit. So this is our estimated timeline for submission of the open space plan. We're taking into account the holidays in November and December, and we want to complete all of our collection of additional information by the beginning of December, work on our layout and map changes concurrently, and then into January a little bit. And then we want to give these certain boards and MAPC who have to do review letters a month to review them, because we don't know, what their other agenda items will be and schedules. We want to give people enough time to look at it, and then submit it, hopefully, back for final approval to the Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs in mid-February. So we have an action plan that's required, and that includes goals, objectives, action steps, and timeline, and has the lead responsibility for the task, as well as who else might have some responsibility for the task. These are the groups that have responsibility either as lead for some activities or as adjunct responsibility in other activities. And you can see that it involves the entire town. All the community organizations, some nonprofit organizations, the recreation department, youth sports leagues, the school department, the historical commission, the Upper Charles Trail Committee, the ARA, community gardens, the CPC, everybody, because it is a plan for the entire town. Briefly, there are 4 main goals, and I just want to briefly review those. The first one is to preserve, protect, connect, and enhance Ashland's conservation and natural resources. The second is to provide, maintain, and improve diverse recreation opportunities that meet the needs of Ashland's growing population. The next is to preserve and improve the quality, character, and health of Ashland's community and environmental resources by remediating degraded lands such as Cadillac Paint, protecting common resources, and preserving cultural heritage, which is where the Historical Commission and the Historical Society come in as well. And the fourth is build a strong constituency of open space and recreation advocates in Ashland through education and collaborative partnerships. So you'll see that the activities that I talk about and the project, the Riverwalk, overlap some of these goals. They address, some of them address more than one goal. And that's why it was important to review those. So the Riverwalk Trail Enhancement Project. These are the components of the trail project. For those of you who haven't heard this recently, a handicapped accessible parking lot, trail and observation deck off of Ponderosa Road. And from standing on the deck, you will be able to look out on Mill Pond and just be able to sit and relax and look at the water, look at the animals, look at the sunshine on the water. Look at it, just a wonderful place to sit and a place to be. It's also going to be one of the few opportunities for people who need handicapped accessibility to have it, as opposed to the town forest or the state parks or even Warren Woods, where it's difficult for people to get around, and this will increase their ability to use natural resources in town. We're also doing trail-wide improvements to the trail, making it wider, making it more level, putting down gravel and stone dust, making it easier to walk and clearing away a lot of the overgrowth. There's a trail extension from Marathon Park and a spur trail on Sudbury Road, and 2 bridges, a long span across the Mill Pond Inlet, which will allow you to be able to go all the way around the pond and do so safely. And then a short span bridge linking the Fish and Game to Marathon Park, downtown Ashland, and the MBTA station. So it links to a lot of recreational facilities. It also links to centers of town, important destinations in town like downtown and the train station. And it's going to be an improved trail, and the handicapped accessibility is an important thing. So these are the benefits of the trail. In addition to health benefits as a recreational asset, quality of life, economic stimulus. It's got ADA accessibility, linkages and connectivity, increased walkability and recreation opportunities. We foresee the observation platform as an opportunity to have ecological and natural resource educational activities, as well as enjoyment of the natural environment. And this was today's groundbreaking ceremony. This is the crew. The person in the red in the middle is Senate President Karen Spilka. Representative Jack Lewis is there. Yolanda and Joe were there. Thank you very much for coming. And
Mike and Jim.
That's the construction crew right there.
Yeah, so you guys are all starting.
So we're all going to work?
Yeah.
You forgot the 2
Know about
supervisors.
putting bridges
Yeah.
in place and things? Very good. Yeah, I'm sorry I couldn't make it. And,
Yeah,
I'm sure
well, it's-
Carl is, and Steve, of course, is.
People were impressed. I mean, it's just cleared so far.
Yeah,
But
looks good.
people who walked all the way down the trail and saw where the observation deck was going to be came back and
Very nice.
were very impressed with the beauty of the site.
That's great.
So the other thing that's important that we engage in are community activities and collaborations. And we work to strengthen collaboration, communication, coordination, and an exchange of ideas with other committees. And you'll see that the members of our committee serve on many other related groups in town. And that is a huge strength and a huge asset. It increases communication, it increases knowledge, it increases information exchange, and it allows us to stay connected to the other projects in town that have relevance and have impact and overlap in terms of their purpose and also their activities. So you can see that, and several of our committee members are involved on more than one other committee, which I think their commitment and dedication to the town is really extraordinary. So this is the second part of the list. And these are some of the community activities we've done in say, the last 12 months. We did an archaeology walk with Dr. Curtis Hoffman, who's a professional archaeologist, and he took us on a walk through the town forest, and it was amazing to hear when you know what you're looking at and he knows what he's looking at, that there's so much more information there in the forest historically than you would ever think by just going for a walk on your own. We've also participated, we always go to Ashland Day, we're always at the farmer's market, and we participated in the community committee fair at Ashland High School. We've done presentations at town meeting on the open space plan and the Riverwalk, and we will be participating in the Board of Selectmen's Forum on the use of town-owned properties
hear that.
tomorrow night at 7 o'clock at the community center.
Very good, thank you.
You're welcome. We've also done a project with the Scouts to have them build 6 ADA accessible picnic tables, so that if you're in a wheelchair or you have a walker, it's easier to get to the table. You can sit closer, you can get up and down without any fear of falling. And so that project was completed, and tables have been placed at the community center, Mill Pond Park, and Stone Park. So we're really pleased and very excited about that.
It was one of our Girl Scouts and her Gold Award. It wasn't
Yeah.
usually we think when we hear Scouts, we think Boy Scouts, but it was one of our Girl Scouts.
It was,
Oh, was it a Boy Scout and a
Scouts
Girl Scout? Was it
Scouts.
the brother and sister? Yeah. Yep.
Very good.
And finally, I just wanted to share the feelings that the committee members have about their service on the committee. We all enjoy our work on behalf of town residents. We're proud to be entrusted to do it. And we want to thank all the residents, the Board of Selectmen, and the town administration for their support. We'll continue to strive to have open space be part of every aspect of the town's planning. We'll continue to work to increase public awareness and educate residents, which is one of our main goals under the plan. And we'll continue to foster conservation, recreation, and open space planning, which is the original charge of the committee in 1989. And thank you.
Thank you, Roberta. Questions or comments for?
There's one other thing I just wanted to share
Sure.
with folks who are at home, because everybody who's here was there and knows about it. But Senate President Spilka presented an official citation today at the groundbreaking of the Riverwalk, and it's very short. I'll just read it.
Sure.
It's official citation. Be it known that the Massachusetts Senate hereby extends its congratulations to the town of Ashland in recognition of the joyous occasion of the Riverwalk groundbreaking, and be it further known that the Massachusetts Senate extends its best wishes for continued success, that this citation be duly signed by the President of the Senate and attested to, and a copy thereof transmitted by the Clerk of the Senate. And it's signed by Senate President Karen Spilka, and it's dated today, October 17th.
Great, thank you.
So it was a great time this morning,
Great.
and there'll be a great ribbon cutting soon, I'm sure.
Oh,
Yes.
good. Just, Roberta, question, so you went through the schedule, so are we going to be getting the revised plan with the parcels, you think in January, or by, I mean the Board of Selectmen here?
With the parcels? What do you mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
your revised plan, that's how, well, correct me if I'm wrong, what is it we're going to be reviewing? Or
You're gonna be you're going to get the plan,
The plan,
Yeah.
which presumably will have your objectives on it, or?
It will have the action plan, which is goals, objectives, activities, lead responsibility, people who have adjunct responsibility, and the estimated timeline between those 7 years of 2017 and 2024 as to when we hope to accomplish that particular goal or do that particular activity. All right, we do talk about some in more general terms, some parcels that we think are of value and should be protected. However, we are cautioned and we are actually instructed not to talk about specific parcels and specific ownership, because then you
And so how do you get
make
it?
things
Are
difficult
we
for
gonna see a
yourself
plan?
down the
And
road.
I just haven't looked at it for a while, but are we gonna see like a large map of the town or certain regions?
The
and you've got-
document's gonna be 1.5 inches thick. There's going to be 2 columns on each page, some illustrations, go through chapters 1 through 11 as required, with all of the text and all of the information that's required. There will be the required maps inserted in each chapter. They will be 11 by 17 and fold out and fold back in. And then there'll be the required appendices with a lot of demographic information about the residents in town and the development in town, that's required.
So let me ask you.
And then there'll be, ADA checklist on facilities,
Okay, so you
recreation
get
and
the-
open space
so-
facilities.
So let
and
me ask,
et
so if
cetera.
I'm a citizen and I think there's some open space that you folks should be looking at or the town should be looking at, what should I do? Like,
Come
how
to
do-
an open space and recreation committee meeting or send us an email and talk to us about it.
and say, I'm
Yeah,
thinking, what
absolutely.
about this area here? And then that's when you get, because,
Absolutely, yeah.
we're always in the position of, something comes to our attention and we may, be able to take action or move quickly and, so I think it's just worth thinking about that process and how it
Yeah,
may work. So
absolutely.
it certainly encourage people to go to you with their ideas and
Sure.
thoughts on things.
And I would say they should go to open space and recreation for all their ideas, if there's recreation related ideas, it's not just open space,
Good point.
right? It's, cause the plan encompasses all of that.
And does that include active recreation, like playing fields, or is that, okay, so that's part of your purview?
The playing fields were a big part of the last update, but
Ah.
they're done. They're,
Sure.
they're done now, so we're not still carrying that forward on the action plan.
And and when we see it in January, what do you think we should be, what, in terms of concepts or decisions or things we're gonna be looking at, what would you say we'll be seeing in this plan that we'd wanna pay attention to, or that will be a decision point?
If I were you, I would focus on chapter 9, which is the action plan. Because I mean, you can read the rest of it, which will tell you about what kind of rocks we have in Ashland, and the sediment and the history of the town and the water resources. We have to describe all of that. There's a lot
Right.
of vegetation and ecological,
Kind of inventory.
natural resource stuff that we
Is
have
the-
to discuss.
Is the preliminary plan currently online, so if there's anyone who wants to go take a look at it already to see what you're recommending before it gets its final approval?
The, not sure if the 2017 conditional one is online,
Would
but
it be
the.
possible to put it up
Oh,
there? Make
absolutely, yeah.
sure if you have
Yeah,
it electronically, so.
Yeah, that's
That way, if
Absolutely.
people have questions, they can at
Sure.
least take a look at it now before it gets its final.
Right, the thing that is,
Good
people
point.
should remember is this is an update, this is not a brand-new open
Right.
plan.
Right.
So we are supposed to build on what we have submitted previously, and what we have submitted previously and are submitting hopefully in February is based on input that we got from the public, so we're not in a position to make radical changes,
Right, no, I
particularly
understand
in
that,
the
I mean, I
action.
remember one of the forums
Yeah.
that you had at the library, where you got a lot of input from people, so.
Yeah,
It was a
Very
couple
good.
years ago, but.
Right.
yeah, I just want people to understand that.
Right, it's not
that-
like you can just certainly start inserting new things, but
Right.
certainly people can see what's there.
Totally,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Roberta.
Okay, thank you very much.
Just one comment for you in
Uh-huh.
regards to when you get it to MAPC, if you need any support, I'm currently on the executive board at MAPC.
Oh, okay, great.
So if you know, depending on who you're sending it to, let me know and I can certainly, I don't know what I can
Great.
do, but if it
Thank you.
helps.
No, thank you for offering to do that.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, everyone.
All right, thanks. So, I just had our usual placeholder for future agenda items, and I see that half our members are.
Yeah, you don't have a
Yeah, so
quorum
we really
right
don't
now.
have a quorum, so we
You don't
really
have a
can't be
quorum.
doing anything. Where'd they go?
Where did they go?
I don't know.
Should we mount a search party?
Because
Oh,
technically,
here they are. Here we go.
we need you guys back because we're currently not a quorum,
Well, we could have, yeah.
or we have to stop the meeting.
All right, so Roberta finished the open space and recreation plan finished. Nature. So, Yeah, so I think the next is discuss future agenda items, which I just put on here, and, does anybody, we went through a bunch last week, and, looking forward to the next meeting. Is there anything, people, wanna add to last week's discussion? We don't need to take a lot of time. There was one thing, but it's escaping me at the moment. I had something.
You have to write it down.
Yes, I did, but now I can't find it.
But he can't read it.
That's right. It's covered with other
No,
things.
I'm fine. I think we discussed a fair
we
amount
did.
last
We
meeting.
did have a lot
so-
of, and we should follow up on that, but.
I think what we did say was that instead of discussing at the meeting, we should email them to you like we have in the past.
Yes, and you could certainly
Yeah.
continue to do that. All right, so, Michael, so we're gonna talk about the review and sign a consent for Ameresco. That's pretty,
So those are the documents that we had a couple meetings ago, but we actually have the hard copies now for you to
Okay.
sign, so.
So
can
we reviewed
sign
and
them.
approved them all, now we just have to do the actual signing. Okay.
yeah, so you're just gonna send those around to be signed.
Yeah, we just got notification of a ribbon cutting at House Street landfill.
Yes, I should.
We're
Just
doing,
Could segue into that.
we did.
I can do it under.
Future agenda items, and now we're doing it. So you're gonna send that around to be signed, is that what, okay. All right, so now we're gonna review warrant articles.
Well, I was gonna let Jen take this one, but, guess I'm gonna have to
jump right
pick
in.
up the slack right now, huh? I guess. So yeah, as you know, we've been, starting to assemble the warrant and put it all together, and, I think we're actually gonna be scheduled to close it, our next meeting, and we've already talked about a few of these, warrant articles, but thought we would just go through and, start talking about some of the warrant language that we have. This is not the most up-to-date, warrant. Again, these things are fluid, they change daily, if not multiple times daily, so, this is the one version that was, I believe, good on Monday, right? Monday, so, one, is standard is, here a report, of the town manager, and that's usually just an update on previous town meeting projects. Second is the creation of a stormwater enterprise fund and the appropriation of funds. So that is similar to that is the decision that you had made at your last meeting. It's appropriating free cash. That's okay. Do you want to jump right in? Okay. The next article is free cash allocations. Again, we will be appropriating money from free cash to our general stabilization fund, the OPEB trust, the special education, special purpose stabilization account, capital account, and then other one-time items.
And that includes the stormwater, is that where we're doing that, or is that?
No, we'll probably run the stormwater up into the article before it. The creation of the stormwater enterprise fund and appropriation of funds.
The free cash, I'm sorry, okay. Yep.
Next is actually one that we will be eliminating the transfer of funds to OPEB trust. That's because we are doing it in the free cash allocations. So it's redundant now.
So we're removing this?
Yes,
It's
we will
unneeded.
remove it. You remember last year we still had two accounts.
Right.
We had a stabilization account, we had a trust, and we put money in the stabilization, then transfer it over to the trust. We've eliminated the stabilization account, so we can just transfer it to the trust directly.
Okay.
Next is property tax exemptions. Again, the same article that we have every fall. Board of Assessors will be talking about that. Again, last year we went up about 33%, so providing some much-needed relief. We will not have any fiscal year 2019 appropriation adjustments, so that will be eliminated. Nope.
Wow.
We might end up having to do some in the spring, just to kind of cover.
At the end of the year?
Yep.
Okay.
That's something we haven't done in a while.
We did it last year. You mean?
Just, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Can't remember
pretty
the
good.
last time we did it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
So the next two articles are related, and what we tried to do is try to group these by themes. So one is approve the tax agreement for the solar project, the Citizens Energy Solar Project that's going to be on the House Street landfill, or not
No.
that House Street landfill,
On
the
the cap.
Nyanza cap. And as part of that, what we would do is we would utilize net funding, which is going to be about $75,000 a year for up to 20 years, to help pay for the, if it goes through, the purchase or taking of the rail transit district property, whether some or all of the rail transit district property.
Why is this called the tax agreement, Michael? Like,
Because, so yeah, it used to be called a payment in lieu of tax as a pilot.
because they're a nonprofit? Is that?
Yeah, so there's currently some discrepancy as to whether or not solar projects are taxed or can be taxable.
I have that same issue at home. Anybody owns a solar roof has the same,
Yeah. So what a lot of communities do is they enter into a tax agreement that really looks at what the tax would be over a period of time. And it usually depreciates. So you usually start off at a pretty high number, and then it depreciates to 30% of the total value. And what you do is you basically average that out over the 20 years. So you're getting even payments each year. So that's what the tax agreement is. So you don't have to worry about going to the appellate tax board or going to the Board of Assessors or anything like that.
And when will we know the details of that?
We're finalizing the last bits and pieces of that right now. So we're looking at probably around $75,000 a year.
Okay.
And then the next group of articles would be related. Do you have a question?
Yeah, this is not really related to the RTD. This is a separate kind of just an agreement with those folks about us.
It is, but I think, conceptually, one of the things that we're trying to do is we're trying to find ways to purchase the pieces of the RTD utilizing funds from the RTD.
And this is part of that.
This would be one of them. Certainly Karen Spilka, Senate President Spilka, who put in a bond bill, $3 million in the economic development bond bill. That's something that we want to try to utilize. And it was specifically for the rail transit district.
Okay.
So the next group of articles would be related to the public safety building. First is to approve the gift of land at Union Street.
But wait, Mike, you just kind of went over the rail transit district.
Yeah.
didn't you?
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't think
We've
there's...
talked about it before, okay.
It's
all right, so
it's out there.
All right, okay.
Excuse me.
So again, approve the gift of land for the public safety building, then amending the zoning on that property to allow for 24-hour municipal use.
Oh, that's interesting.
And then finally is the authorization of funds and the appropriation of funds for the $3.5 million. And that $3.5 million number will be in the motion, I should say. Next is we have approve a purchase. We do have taking of land, even though that's just standard. We would be talking about a purchase of Oregon Road. Remember, that's the property off of Lincoln that we have
Yep.
talked about. The next articles are related to the Riverwalk project, and so that's accepting an easement from the Kennedy family at 24 Sudbury Road for the Riverwalk project to go through. And then also we would be, as part of this, it's almost like a land swap. Is that the best?
Okay.
Yeah, so it's how we're paying for the easement. The property that they currently are utilizing, we would be conveying that to them. Next would be the MWRA bond for I&I work. This is something that comes across every 2 years. It's a low-interest loan and then actually a grant program through the MWRA that helps us with our inflow and infiltration issues.
Can I ask a question on that? Is that the increase that we have to pay now to Framingham? That increase, is that built into this figure in some way?
No. You mean, is it caused by I&I?
No. But
Okay.
with the INI, with those figures, does that figure, the additional increase in payment to Framingham, is that added into this INI?
No, it's not.
Why wouldn't it be?
Because what the state does is they set aside a bucket of
Okay.
funds, and it's very, very limited,
Okay.
actually, for all the communities to apply for and take care of that. So it's not based on what the community pays,
Goes up,
it's
okay.
based on an application that we put through. We talk about our current improvements to the infiltration and inflow system, which we've actually been making a lot of headway on.
No, I was just rather curious, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to throw a curveball at you.
Yeah, that's okay. Next one is related to municipal lien charges. So this would actually give us, so similar to, when we've had an issue with non-payment of charges in the past. I mean, we're certainly owed those charges, and we have the ability to do things like withhold permits from the people who owe those charges when they come and apply. This actually gives us the authority to put a lien on the property for those charges, so it gives us a little extra teeth.
Okay, and this is something we have to formally adopt and then go to the legislature with, or
No, it's
just do
adopting
it?
a statute.
All right, very good.
Next is related to the collection of municipal charges. It's just basically making language consistent. The next one would be, this is the fingerprinting. Is this the ice cream one? Yeah, what we colloquially refer to as the ice cream food truck regulations.
How is this only related to the ice cream truck, and how is the fingerprinting related to that?
That's all you, Jen.
So the state law calls out peddlers. There's certain classifications that in order to do the proper permitting, we have to fingerprint. At some recent point in time, ice cream truck vendors was added, and so we have to accept.
Because this,
So we have to
sexual predator.
accept that, and then we're able to do the proper fingerprinting background and issue permits.
Okay.
Is this like NCIC?
CIS?
No, the National Crime
Oh.
Information. Is it nationwide? That's all that.
It's a state law, so I'm
So the
assuming.
fingerprint's the
Oh, yes.
database.
Yeah,
Must
yes.
be nationwide
Yes.
database.
I think it is.
Yeah.
Like when you do a
It's
Cory
APHIS.
check, it's only Massachusetts, for example, right?
Right, I believe it,
So,
yeah. Goes
okay.
through the system, yeah.
So that's a big deal.
Yeah. So then we
Once I got out of Utah, I wasn't gonna have trouble anymore, but,
Utah. We gotta talk, Rob.
yeah.
Too much
So,
Yes.
so we have two road acceptances, one on Tideman Road and then the other on Royal Colony Drive. I believe those have had their hearings at the planning board,
They have, yeah.
and then I believe they come before the Board of Selectmen
Next meeting.
next meeting.
Next meeting, I was gonna say.
What's that?
The road acceptances, the
Oh, okay.
layout
We'll
hearings.
do that
that's
next
Is
following.
Dougie gonna talk on that, or
I'll provide a, I think he typically
Oh,
provides a
yeah.
recommendation.
Yeah, I need somebody to make a motion.
I move that we go past 10 o'clock.
Begrudgingly, I
Second? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? No.
Thank you.
So creation of stormwater enterprise budget, that will be deleted, as well as the creation of the stormwater bylaw, that will be deleted because we're doing it in Article 2.
Oh, okay.
So it's
We don't need to do it
duplicative.
twice.
Right.
No,
Very
once is
good.
gonna be enough.
Good.
I've got a feeling.
Yes.
We have the groundwater use restriction bylaw, sector bylaw is what we were calling it now. And then the last two are related to something that has recently come up with 6 Cherry Street. So the Affordable Housing Trust and the CPC met Tuesday, or was it Monday?
Some point this week.
Yeah, at some point this week. It was Monday, actually.
This is the corner spot for people wanting.
This was the
right?
corner spot for people who do not know what 6 Cherry Street is. So what I believe the trust, and we are fortunate enough to have a member of the trust on the board here, has agreed to do is sell the property at 6 Cherry Street for, it will essentially be for the $250,000. That comes through $100,000 which I would propose we would take out of free cash because it's a one-time expense, and then a $150,000 mortgage, a 30-year note, or when the property is disposed of or sold, like if in the future it's sold to the town decides to sell it to develop it, the proceeds would then go to pay the Affordable Housing Trust or the remainder of that.
And
But
we
they'd
do
get-
it that way? Or does the CPC money have to be replaced sooner?
No, we can do it that way.
Okay.
This is, Lisa and I tangled quite a bit on this.
Why is there CPC money though?
Well, the other thing is that
Oh, when.
the Community Preservation Committee has agreed to, well, they have yet to vote, but conceptually they are looking at appropriating $250,000 to the Affordable Housing Trust to acquire, redevelop, or purchase the affordability restrictions for a piece of property downtown. And I believe the exact language is going to be a half-mile radius within Town Hall. Is that?
That's correct.
Okay.
So it could be anything, it's just.
Within a half-mile radius of the town hall.
I think there's a couple of properties that are
being
more,
that are interesting for what we would like to do.
And we're gonna vote on this at fall town meeting? This is the first
Yes.
we're hearing about it?
so,
Well, this has all happened very recently, right? Is that?
yeah, this was Monday night. There was a discussion between the trust and the CPC, myself, and then after having a conversation with town council, she had some concerns with the way the agreement was constituted, so made the suggestion of doing the mortgage with the additional.
So let's get, so Carl's, I think, a little concerned about the timing of this, but, so I think the background is the lease.
December
the corner
31st
spot
is
was coming
up.
up, so you guys need to decide if you're gonna take it back and do affordable housing. So I think we're thinking the town and the.
Renew the lease.
What's that?
We can't renew the lease, though, that's the problem. So,
How the original lease was written, or?
yes.
Okay.
So,
So I think we're thinking people like the corner spot, I think we wanna keep using it
Well,
in that way,
that's
is that
the
what's
reason-
going on here?
That's the reason why it's being
What-
looked at
what-
that way.
Right.
I don't wanna spend all night on this, but what do you mean the way the lease is written? That it explicitly says it can't be renewed?
I'm trying to remember the,
Will not-
yeah, the
verbiage, I
exact.
can't remember, but.
Will not exceed 24
yeah, will
months.
not
Will
exceed.
not exceed,
yeah.
that's exactly what it was, will not exceed.
Will not exceed what?
24
The
months.
24 months, and this was back in 2016.
So, you create another lease.
Okay.
Well, so, I mean, I guess let's look at the big picture here. So, we were gonna do affordable housing, but I think people are thinking now, we wanna keep using it as a corner spot or something like that, is that, I mean, what's the thinking here that you guys are?
Well, the petitioners signed, close to 500 residents, like the idea of keeping the corner spot the way it is for their entertainment purposes
Nobody's questioning that.
Oh, no,
okay.
but I'm just saying, so it's something that we had planned on using,
Sure.
but unfortunately, because of the way the economy is today and the construction people, you know, they have work, they're not starving. So the RFP went out and we got one and it wasn't what we were looking for and it wasn't acceptable to what we wanted to do, so we took it off the table.
Yeah, so
that
we're,
opened up-
we're just kinda swap, we're gonna keep, we're gonna not use it for affordable housing because we wanna at least keep the corner spot concept going for a while, I guess, and I don't know, is there a thought of how long it would keep going, or?
I
was it
think
originally
we'll-
proposed as a temporary.
Yeah, I mean, I think we will know when it's run its course. And I think the Affordable Housing Trust concerns were, like, look, our mission is to promulgate affordable housing. You know, this is something that we were willing to do. If we're not gonna be able to do that now, we should look at doing it somewhere else.
Well, which is all fine, except this is new to me tonight, and
It's new to everybody tonight.
and it seems like a shell game that, of switching funds around, where it seems like it would be an option would be to create a new lease for another 24 months or whatever the last lease was for. Or either that or put this off until everybody knew what the hell was going on instead of.
Well, if that happens, then the 31st comes of December, and then they're without a lease, and where does the corner spot go?
Well, I think what Carl's saying is, can't we create a new lease for another 24 months? Or is there something else that's saying we can't?
I know the underlying concern of the language was that, you know, it's clearly not being used for affordable housing right now. And I think there was some concern that you know, if you had it for an extended period of time, that could be challenged. That could be.
I see what you're saying. Okay, so because
but
it
there
was
was
purchased with affordable, it's obviously not being used for affordable. So even though the potential is for a different lease, there's going to still be questioned that the money was that we used was CPC affordable. It's not affordable, so someone may question that. I see what you're saying.
Wasn't that? I mean,
but it
could
wasn't.
have questioned that 24 months ago too.
Well, but so
Like,
Carl,
you
you're saying
question that
so,
immediately, but
right.
yeah.
Well, the thing about this plan is that at least the Affordable Housing Committee is going to be moving forward, looking for affordable housing.
Well, what was the language? Is the language that you said about finding a building downtown and developing, is that in the warrant article?
It's not in the warrant article. It can be, I think, or the motion, but explicitly it was to acquire, redevelop, or acquire the affordability restrictions of a property within a half-mile radius of Ashland Town Hall. And there was a sunset clause of three years.
3 years. But, all right, seems ambiguous to me, but maybe.
I mean, I guess the thing I like, I mean, it's, at least we're moving forward with affordable housing. Instead, like, if you want to keep the corner spot, that's the trade-off. If you keep the corner spot, there's no affordable housing being developed, and that's why we.
For that location, right?
Right.
But it sounds like what they're saying for the funding, it would be to then make affordable housing someplace else within downtown.
And I guess that's what I like. I mean, I'm not eager to throw more stuff on the special town meeting, but this is kind of a time-limited thing, and you seem to have worked something out that seems reasonable.
And the trust has been, I know the trust has been talking about this for, you know, a couple of months, trying to figure out a solution, trying to work.
Well, especially since this was made aware early in the summer.
Right.
That this was an issue.
All right.
So is there anything I'm missing from the latest version?
I think the only thing is the open space on Hillcrest, which we deferred from in May. So there was
Remind
an open
us what
space
that
component.
was.
So we took the roads with the exception of Timon Road.
Oh,
And they had open space that they had some issues that they were working through that will come to
and that
us.
may come back on, is that what
It
you're saying?
will, yes.
Okay.
For this meeting?
Well, that's kind of routine, right? It's just to accept his,
And we're closing the warrant in.
next meeting, right?
The next
November
meeting on the
7th.
7th.
I think we have to, right?
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else on that? So the election warrant, we're gonna sign the warrant, so, I don't know, hopefully, I didn't read through all the wording of all the, is the warrant good? I mean, is the election,
Yeah, we had a copy of it in the.
yes, I saw it.
there.
Yeah.
Yes, you know, the important one's question 4. Well, I guess they're all important. That's, but,
So what do you need us to approve the warrant? I mean, the election of the ballot, is that what we're?
approve and sign
Vote
the.
to approve and then sign it.
Yeah.
I move that we approve the state election ballot as presented.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion passes 4-0. Thank you. And, okay. All right, so now the public forum discussion on town-owned properties to be held tomorrow. And Michael, in our packet, we have a nice little.
Well, that's just the, you know, introductory slide that we have. We've given the other presentation that Susan had put together, I think a couple meetings
Nice.
ago. So we're still scheduled for 7 p.m. tomorrow at the community center. I think, Rob, you and I had discussed a little bit about maybe format and having, yourself present some opening remarks. And one of the things that we wanted to throw out as a way to move forward is I could take a couple of the options that I had provided in that spreadsheet and just talk about those conceptually to help kind of frame the discussion on each of the properties, and then get feedback on those. So that way we're a little bit more structured.
Are we thinking 7 to 9 as a time frame?
I think that's ambitious, but yes.
And then sort of determine how much time we're gonna spend on each of these, knowing that we're probably gonna get to touch on all of them. And then, one of the recommendations that I have is if there are people interested on a specific property, that we, then at some point, and maybe it doesn't have be a big televised meeting, it's, okay, if you're interested on working on the Valentine property and putting more feedback, there's a meeting specifically for that. And for what I consider the Warren district kind of thing.
So you
So
say a
that's
meeting, at the meeting or in a different meeting?
Separate. So
Separate meeting.
for tomorrow night, it's Michael giving an overview of some of the suggestions for each of these properties, getting some immediate feedback from people, but then saying, okay, if you're interested in working on the Valentine property, we'll be planning a meeting where people can talk about and move stuff forward for Valentine.
So we'd want sign-up sheets for each property, something like that.
Yeah, no,
Potentially.
like Carl has talked about, like having a committee for the Valentine property.
Right.
Yeah.
You might not necessarily want to have that for all the properties, but,
Right.
I think
Well, that's kind of a follow-up, and then, as Roberta is gonna be there with, part of this, some of this has open space implications and implications for other committees in terms of use.
I think the dog park committee is going to have
Yep, contingency there.
I've even heard Paul Pahoviak might make an
So I have
appearance.
a question. I believe we're gonna live stream. I'm gonna double check with WACA-TV. At the downtown forum, we answered a question of someone who wasn't able to be at the meeting but was watching. And I just wanted to see if you guys thought that was
that's great.
okay.
That's a great
And I would
idea.
work with Paul to manage that
good.
for when we get to questions or
Yeah,
comments.
sure.
Okay.
I mean, it can't hurt to try, right?
Right, just to get more feedback if someone can't be there because their kids are sleeping, they don't have a babysitter, but they wanna watch and give,
We used, I was at my company did a forum, and we used something called Mentimeter. Have you guys heard of that? So people on their, you can sit,
Mentimeter?
it's a service you buy, and you could sit there on your smartphone at the meeting, they'll put a question up on the screen, and people there can then respond, and then it comes back right away on the screen of how people answered the question.
That sounds scary.
Probably not for tomorrow night, but
I know.
just voting.
But it's got
Something-
Mentimeter, I know, because I paid the bill, so I remember how it's spelled, but.
I wonder if there's some kind of related to municipal government similar to that.
I mean, I'm sure there must be a lot of stuff out there like that. They really might go. Anyway, but it's something to
Okay.
think about, anyway.
Absolutely.
But, so Michael.
Pound law.
Yeah. So,
Especially if you're at the meeting.
so just to go on with Yolanda's, so as you go through we'll have a Q&A session, maybe a sign-up sheet, and you'll present your idea, and people can respond or have ideas, and we're recording this and asking questions. And, is someone taking notes on all these things that happen? How will we do that?
Well, I would assume that if it's gonna be recorded by WACA, you have that as a recording that you can use for your notes.
Well, that means someone kind of usually at these kind of planning sessions, there's somebody,
Yeah, are we gonna have like flip charts so that as people give comments, we can be writing them down?
Did not think about that. That's something that we could certainly,
I think we, have the ones that, okay, Valentine Estate, okay, these are what we're thinking. What do people think about that, and if there's other feedback, might be good to have that.
Yeah, something set up like that.
I mean, it's going to be interesting how to frame it for each of these properties going forward, because, I think a lot of us have been, the idea of an open-ended conversation about some of these properties leads to people getting frustrated and disappointed, because sometimes people will throw out things that just aren't necessarily realistic.
Right.
And it's just because they don't know that you can't do X or Y.
Well, maybe.
And
part of what your presentation then is, you know, I think about like the Valentine property, we bought it with CPA funds.
Correct.
So there's certain restrictions, so you can't put, I don't know what you can't put, but there's certain things that you can't put on that property.
Right.
But there's certain things that you can do on that property. So, you know, similar with, you know, some of these other properties, right? Like 22 Elliott Street, I know I asked to put that on there, but there's certain restrictions because of how it was purchased and who has the care and custody of that building.
Exactly.
That's all.
Exactly. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
All right, thank you. So that's tomorrow night at 7 o'clock at the community center. Very good. And Mike, have you got an idea of what kind of attendance we're expecting and where we got the word out? And
I know we've had, especially recently, a lot of stuff going on Facebook, not just necessarily like things that we have posted, but people have taken our stuff
Good.
and shared it around, which
Yeah.
is always a much better.
And is there
way
something
to reach
posted on the
people.
town website on this?
We
Like,
have
is there-
something, yeah, it is
Good.
posted on the website and on the calendar and,
Is it on the electronic signboards?
no,
Can we get up there for tomorrow?
good.
Sure, that's a good reminder. Okay, anything else on that?
No.
None, I will move on to town manager reports.
So first, I think Jen is going to discuss the schedule for early voting.
Good.
Very ominous.
I have the paper if you need it.
I have it.
Okay. Excuse me.
So as we discussed, today is the last day to register for vote. So if you didn't make it down here before 8 p.m., you can still go online until 11:59. We actually have a link on our homepage that you can click on. Since September, we have 400 new registered voters, which is sort of an indication of potential turnout, as well as when I came up here this evening, we had sent out 230 absentee ballots. So again, that's usually an indicator of how many people will turn out. So I think that early voting will be a nice option to have folks again. It begins on Monday, October 22nd, and it goes through November 2nd. So typically it's going to follow the hours of town hall. So each day it'll be 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Friday, October 26th, town hall will be open where it's normally closed for voting from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. We'll be doing early voting on one Saturday, which will be October 27th, from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. And then again, we'll go back to normal schedule Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and then Friday, once again, will be open for voting on November 2nd from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m.
And it's basically it's following town hall hours.
So on
'Cause
Wednesdays, we are
it's
open till,
late.
right,
Yeah.
so on Wednesdays, on both of those Wednesdays, you can come in until 7 p.m. to vote.
It is good for people to remember on Friday, though, it closes at noon. So
Correct.
that's important
Right.
because people come in and,
And you have that one Saturday that's available, so.
Yeah, that's good.
That's great. And I guess the reason I'd asked, we review this, other than it's good to review it, is that, what were the implications that you guys, as you considered the schedule, like, what was the thinking about how to do the schedule? Is it just, were there cost considerations in terms of, how much early voting we could do? Were the hours, did we have a discretion with different kinds of hours, or, how did all
You have
that?
discretion on whether you institute weekend hours, and so the town clerk looked at last time, we only have one, obviously, benchmark of last time, but we did have a high turnout on Saturday, and so we did sort of balance the budget implications. We will be applying for a grant. It won't cover all the costs, but it certainly defrays some of the costs, and how many people took advantage of the Saturday. So that's really where, so basically, early voting has to align with your town hall hours, excluding obviously the weekend.
All right. Well, I guess, it's an interesting, I'd like to follow up maybe, next year as we go into this, kind of, talk about this at a Board of Selectmen meeting, about how much we should be open, how much it might cost, just to kind of go over what the results were from this year. I just, speaking for myself, and you guys can say, yes, I'd like to be involved in that discussion as we approach the election, so. Anybody else think or care? No? Okay.
Well, it's not that I don't care, it's just that it's based somewhat on the budget, so I would think that as we're looking at our budget for next year, we might wanna ask, okay, what did it cost us, and make
Right.
sure we have enough money in that budget line item. But in regards to how they do it, town clerk has, she knows what I think.
Yeah, well,
What she has-
but didn't you make some discretionary decisions about spending more or less money? I mean, we could have saved some money, or,
Well, I mean, we did add money in the budget for FY
So
nineteen
that's part of the plan,
specifically,
specifically
and we
for-
talked about it because there
Okay.
was a noticeable
oh, all right,
bump. Yeah.
okay, so that's a good discussion there, okay. Great, thank you.
Wanna
So
move-
that's, I just noticed it's a popular thing, and people like doing it, and it seems to be working out.
It is.
And thank the town clerk for their dedication and going down there. I think I participated last year. It was a real beehive of activity down
Yeah,
there.
it's
Yeah.
very popular.
Yeah. And people should note that the basement meeting rooms are not gonna be available
Right.
for that time
Right.
period,
And that's okay.
you know.
Less meetings.
Okay.
So,
All right, thank you.
all right. Next, I was going to talk briefly about the Riverwalk groundbreaking. I think Roberta pretty much covered it. I thought it was a great opportunity to showcase, a project that, and what I really wanted to highlight was the fact that how many people had to work together to kind of get this over the goal line. And I think it's something we can be really, really proud of once it's completed. And
Add
That's
to
great.
that, it was interesting in talking to Rob St. Germain, and he mentioned that Larry DeYoung was on the planning board when the Sudbury housing development, the Sudbury Road development was going in, and apparently, as a member of the planning board, he had the foresight to say,
Jim.
to whoever was doing the development, we want to keep an easement from the water up to a certain amount, and I don't know how much, and because we have that easement, we're able to put this trail in, so this is one of those.
So maybe we can call it the Larry DeYoung River
Oh, there you go.
Walk.
So it's one of those things where it goes back to how long people have been talking about this, and it moved along and it moved along, and finally, because it was the right focus, similar to what you were saying this morning, Michael, is that you get the right mass and focus on it, and we were able to get some great funding to help us pay for this. We're able to take it to the finish line.
Yep.
And just noting, going back that time, Jim Hickey, that was his development.
Oh, okay.
And Jim was part of that discussion, at getting that.
Well, he was very cooperative. I remember talking to him about it at the time, because I was on the Conservation Commission. The path, there was kind of a rudimentary path, but it went back into the swamp and then somebody's backyard.
Was
But
George Washington president then?
but
Joe was in high school.
Jim was very enthusiastic about it. Oh yeah, we're doing this. We're going to put a trail here. So that goes back
Oh,
to that.
good.
So it's good that developers can be cooperative and,
Yeah.
and be farsighted,
Well, and certainly
foresighted
if,
too.
if it was Mr. Hickey,
Yeah.
he's been in town a long time,
Yeah.
so it's good that he
Was
was
good, yeah.
willing to work on that and allow that.
So, and then 3 quick things that I didn't have on here, but a couple of them you know about. First of all, I want to let everybody know that we did file for intervenor status with the Eversource project.
Yes.
So we should be hearing about that soon, a decision from the presiding officer on that.
Well, what does that mean? So a decision on whether we can be intervenors?
Whether we'll be classified as
And then
intervenors, yeah.
and what's the process then? We do what do we want to intervene on? What's our issue, and how do we determine, you know what I'm saying? So do we have a process to review the plan and go over what, how do we?
Well, having that official status, gives us the opportunity to call witnesses, present evidence, testimony on things that we have concerns about. A lot of what I've seen in terms of the concerns and maybe the desired relief is probably the more important thing, is that Eversource should strongly or should do the alternate route versus their preferred route. Now, the alternate route, if you remember, utilizes is all street.
Oh, really?
You've heard support for that?
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Other than the Sustainability Committee?
they
Yes,
didn't say that.
homeowners and several homeowners in the, I think we would probably be privy to the comments that were also filed with Eversource by having, intervenor
Yeah, it
status.
just gives you a legal seat at the table.
Right.
Yeah.
And what table would that be, I mean, are
At
we
the
sitting here
siding-
on our own sending in comments, or do we go to a meeting with the DPU, or?
Probably all of the above. So it's with the siting board, the DPU siting board. So they, ultimately make the
And
decision.
what's the kind of general schedule for that?
I don't know.
So they've got another, I'm trying to remember, they talked about another year before they actually start doing things, I think.
But it would be nice for us to be at the table to say, hey, hold on a second here.
Well, yeah, but first we have to figure out what our concerns are and what we want. We got, did you guys all get the report? I think we were copied on a report that the Sustainability Committee.
It was a letter.
What was their letter
It was their
of opposition? Right.
Sent to the facility siting board. So, that would be something, for us to consider if that's a comment that we also agree with or don't agree with, or we're going to make, or push that.
Well, we have two choices, and one of the choices is not whether they actually do this.
It's not. That's what you're saying?
As I understand it, it's either they go through where it currently is, or they get on the street, but they have to connect.
Right.
There's a 12-inch pipe on each end and a 6-inch pipe in Ashland.
Yeah. So, but the concerns
sure
are where it
we know.
in their preferred route, it transects, critical environmental areas. There's a junction under Joanne Drive that is complicated, to say the least.
Oh, I see. Okay, so we've got a number of concerns. Carl, are you saying that we can't even raise the issue of them not doing it? Because that's what the Sustainability Committee has raised, that issue.
I don't think that's one of our options, is it?
I don't think so either.
Well, are our options spelled out somewhere?
Well, they have an easement to replace their utilities. I'm not sure that we have a say on
Where that easement is.
No, we have
No, whether or not
where it
they do
is.
it.
It's
Whether
just
or not they
whether
replace
it's
it.
there.
To do it.
Well, I'd like to, I'm not saying I agree or disagree with that. I don't know if people had a chance to read it. But say you think that that's an appropriate point of view to take, that we should not increase the gas line capacity. I guess my question is, are you saying that we shouldn't even consider that or make that comment?
I'm with Carl on that. I don't think we have that ability. I mean, I think
We certainly don't have the decision making, but it would be
Yeah.
more like, what is our point of view
Well,
to the facility siting committee?
I mean, I think we could advocate for that. I don't know if it would resonate, but I really do think we're limited. Yeah.
I'm sorry, Michael.
No,
but
no.
From a safety perspective, that line is 70 years old.
I
We
may
either
agree
leave
with-
it in the ground or we replace
Right,
it.
I may agree with you on that, but they're not saying it has anything to do with safety. If it had to do with safety, they wouldn't be doing it. That's what they say.
Eversource?
No, I think it's two things, right? It's one, it's an old pipe. and-
No. I asked them that specific question. They said the current pipe is safe.
No, we asked this question to their representatives
Yeah.
about 4 years ago. Remember that one? They were asking to work on
Yeah.
Prospect Street, and we said, what's the life expectancy of the pipe? And they said, we don't know. And we said, well, that pipe is really old because it's older than I am. And that's a real concern.
Well, I
No,
think
I
to your
don't
point,
disagree.
Rob, I think yes, the current pipe is safe, but it's an old pipe. So they feel that for two reasons. So because of potential, maybe not now, but potential safety, they want to replace it, and also because of the pressure going through the pipe.
I don't think
They
they
want
ever
to
said
increase
that.
the, oh, okay.
I don't think they ever said, they wouldn't, I kind of offered to them to say that, because, yeah, it does make sense, it's 65 years old, but they wouldn't bite on that one.
Well, I
So,
think they're probably, okay.
They don't wanna.
Maybe my misunderstanding then.
Anyway, but it sounds like we have more to
More will
consider
be
on this. We
revealed.
should probably put this on the agenda, so. anyway.
Future agenda items.
Future agenda item, okay, thank you.
How long is their review open for? Like, when can we, when do we need to make sure we have this on an agenda so we can have more information and address this?
Well, there's a deadline, I believe, in which they have to decide whether or not we do have that status.
Okay.
And that's the one that we're concerned with right now. I
And that's
believe
pretty
it's
Right, because
30
that's, I
days.
think, the end of the month, right? So that's why we decided to go for that.
Well, no, we had a deadline
to
October
file.
15th
Oh,
to
to
file.
file for that intervenor status, which
So-
is why we voted for it on our last meeting.
But once they have that petition,
Mhm.
they have 30 days, I believe it's 30 days,
Okay,
to
to decide
decide
if they're
whether or
gonna
not
give
we
it
have
to
that
us.
status.
Okay. So until we hear back about that,
Correct.
we can't do anything, okay.
And we're
And I-
gathering information. Yeah.
And I don't see why we wouldn't, because Eversource, I mean, that was the
Right, they
reason why I
said
asked
basically do
Eversource.
it, right.
Yeah, sounds like we will. Okay, very
Um,
good.
So, second, just real quick, we'll have more about this later, but we were notified that we did receive the Distinguished Budget Award again. So second year in a row.
Congratulations, yeah, very nice.
So we'll talk about that a little more later in a future meeting. And then last, I wanted to let you all know that very quickly, the Ashland Indian community has put together a Diwali event to be held on November 4th. Sunday, November 4th. It's going to be at the Corner Spot. Starts at 3 o'clock, ends at 7. It's just everybody who is not familiar with Diwali. That's the Festival of Lights. It's a pretty big holiday in the Hindu faith, and we do have a very large Indian community here, and we just think it's a great way to kind of celebrate their culture and heritage. And
Yeah,
Time did you
we
say?
went
3
last
to
year.
7.
Remember you and I went,
Yeah, that's another celebration, believe it or not.
but it was Diwali.
It was Diwali.
Yeah, we ate too much.
Yeah, there was like 2 or 3 of them.
Well,
This is going to be
is one
another.
at-
How'd I miss it?
Is that different than the one at the high school?
It is different than the one at the
I
high
ate
school.
your portion though. It was good stuff.
Okay, 3 to 7 p.m. Is that what you said? Okay.
So
Did we get an did we get any?
not
Okay,
officially
but
yet.
you're-
It was
okay.
finalized today.
All right,
And
very
then
good.
and then finally, as Yolanda mentioned, we will be having a ribbon cutting at the House Street landfill. So that's it.
It's open, isn't it? Wasn't it open?
It
and
is.
Operating?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
it's been open and operating. We just
But
want to get
now
things
all of
together.
them are- Very good.
Is the landscaping done over there? Cause it's looking pretty sparse.
It needs
It's looking a little scraggly.
Yeah.
I agree.
They need to mow the lawn.
There was somebody up there with a water truck that was watering the trees,
Mm.
and the trees have taken.
The trees look a little, I mean, I understand they'll grow and get bigger, but they look a little sparse based on the information and what was shown that they were gonna do.
Yeah, I think it's going to be important to continually compare what was approved in the site plan versus what is working.
Yeah.
Some of the
What's-
neighbors actually liked the way they had it out there when they first put it in. It actually looked nice.
And now that the grass is starting to fall down. When did you say that other one was? The ribbon cutting
Oh,
ceremony?
the ribbon cutting?
I'm sorry.
We sent an invitation.
Yeah, we got the invite today. I
Um,
forget when though.
It's 8th? Okay.
Okay, November 8th. Oh, it's a Thursday, okay.
Yep, it's the 8th. And that's it.
All
Yeah,
right.
we got that from,
Board reports? Joe? Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just basically, I enjoyed the Riverwalk ceremony this morning. It was very nice. I just want to thank all those folks that have been on that committee for a number of years. It finally came through, and it's in its completion stage and getting ready to be completed, I should say. And I like the idea of putting something and giving somebody some recognition with respect to that. And there's going to be an observation deck. Maybe we could call that the Larry DeYoung observation deck, seeing that he had the vision to see something down the
Yeah,
down
maybe
the
we
road.
could even put a spur up to his backyard.
We could.
That's interesting.
We could. Other than that, just want to say we have the Halloween parade on February. Yeah, sure.
February.
Yeah, on October 26th, which is a
Halloween in
Friday.
February.
Yeah, October 26th at 6 o'clock at the Montenegro Square. We march down to the Mendez Middle School, and where there's a little party and stuff for the kids. Parents are all welcome to come. We ask the parents to come get dressed up as well. We have gift certificates for the parents to come up with the best costumes. So a couple of gift certificates there, and all the kids get goodie bags and juice and cider and donuts, the best costumes for different age groups get a gift certificate. Unfortunately, this year, we don't have the gift certificates at Toys R Us, because they're no longer in
Toys R Us.
operation, so, we're thinking that we may get $25 gift certificates to Murphy's Ice Cream.
Oh, there you go.
Keep the money in town,
Murphy, yeah,
so,
yeah.
and kids love ice cream.
Well, and you can also get dinner there. if
And you can
want.
get dinner there too if they like. But that's all I have for right now.
But you probably should mention your 45th high school reunion just happened, along with the beer fest, right?
I really didn't want to get into that, but it was a good time. It was fun to have it all. We didn't have to turn any music on because the band that they had back there was so loud
great,
that it was
yeah.
just like, but it was
You
a lot
guys
of
were
fun.
inside the VFW?
We were inside,
Oh,
yeah.
Beer
okay.
fest was
It was
out
outside,
back.
yeah,
I
the
heard
beer
it
fest
a
was out
great
back.
So
success.
it was the place was mobbed.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe how packed that was.
Oh, that explains why there were so many cars.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
And
I mean,
I'm
Connect
sad
Church
that I
parking lot
missed
was
it,
packed,
so.
was full.
Beer fest was fun.
Beer Fest was fun. The Burnham's Manor parking lot was full. Even the
Okay,
little
sorry.
railroad
Yeah.
parking area was
Right,
completely
Alright.
full. So it was a
Thank
lot of fun.
Great,
So.
thanks, Yolanda.
So I did attend the beer fest. It was a lot of
Oh.
fun. It got a little chilly at night, but it was a great turnout. I think it was a good fundraiser for Ashland Sporting and for the VFW. Coming up, October 20, I should know the dates, 25th, 26th, 27th is Ashland Community Theater's next performance, Play On. You can get tickets online. It's at the VFW, so that should be fun. Halloween is Wednesday, October 31st. Here in Ashland, we go trick-or-treating on Halloween, so you get to dress up twice if you want. You can go to the Halloween parade on the 26th, which is always fun, and then Halloween itself is the 31st. And then I attended last week, Friday, in Framingham, was the MMA legislative breakfast. There were a number of legislators there. They bring forward things that the legislator has accomplished, what they're looking for next session. Two of the things they're looking at is review of the open meeting law and some of the issues that it has caused. One of the legislators brought up how there's a gentleman who in Wellesley and Natick and now starting in Framingham, if we thought we had a lot of issues and a lot of complaints, apparently they have even more. And one of the things that many people mentioned was the open meeting law should not only apply to the cities and towns, but it should apply to our House of Representatives and senators. If you're gonna put this law in place, so that was brought forward. Then another one that's gonna be a new bill that's gonna be looked to be presented is that if they're putting forward mandates that usually go unfunded, that they have some kind of financial statement associated with it, and then looking at putting some kind of issue so that if they don't put the statement there, how can we then say to this House, to the senators, or if the bill passes, to say if there's no financial statement as to what it's going to cost us, it's not going to go into effect. But that'll be for next session.
Interesting.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting.
Did they bring up the fact that they get half a year off with pay? They didn't bring
Well,
that one up.
yeah, well, just like they gave themselves a raise the beginning of last session, but that's another story. Anyway.
Thank you, Yolanda.
Oh, and then
Carl?
elections are
sorry.
before our next meeting.
Oh, yes. Good
Elections
reminder,
November
yeah.
6th.
I don't have anything, Rob.
All right. The only thing I'll just briefly mention, as chair, I got this from the Massachusetts Office on Disability, so I'm assuming you guys didn't get this. But it's saying they're looking to establish commissions on disabilities in every community where one does not exist, and apparently we don't have one. So I thought it was an interesting letter, and I think I'll send it around to folks. I think we should put on an agenda to just discuss should we have a commission on disability in this town? What would they do? Could we find someone who's willing to do it? They mentioned parking fines and things like that, so I'm not quite sure what the connection is or if you need a commission to do that. But there's some guidelines here, so I guess I'll send it around to folks and we'll.
Give it to Susan to scan and get us some electronic
We'll discuss
copies.
it at a future agenda item, okay?
Sounds
Fair
good.
enough, all right.
Thank you.
With that, I will adjourn us, so thank you all for watching and.
So moved.
I think we need a motion.
Ask for a motion, I
So
can't do it
moved.
unilaterally.
Second?
All those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.